Smart people don't mean how to grab a good hand, but know when to leave. The real master is never swayed by emotions, but to jump out of his emotions and establish his own unique rhythm. Although the problem of the soul is tricky, but Usopp is not anxious. After eating and drinking, he did not directly start to settle, but continued to leisurely soak in the hot bath, and rubbed his back. Don't ask how to rub it, take it back. Completely relaxed his body and mind, changed into a clean and loose clothes, and tidied up the house. By the way, the clean environment can make his thoughts much clearer. At this time, Usopp is like a soldier about to go to war, settle down at home to fight for the country with peace of mind. Usopp sat cross-legged on the bed, adjusted his physical and mental state as much as possible, and kept his state of mind pure and peaceful. Usopp, who is familiar with the plot, has guessed his first enemy more than once, the fierce scene of the first battle, maybe the hypnotic master Zango, the big butler, but also guessed that it may be the mouth cannon fishman chirping, but did not think that the first enemy is himself, and the first battle is a very likely soul death road to eliminate the hard battle, the way of the soul. Who understands this thing? Usopp was always able to maintain enough awe for what he didn't understand. Go is an attitude. First consider a few rounds, steady a few hands, don't wave. Since ancient times, the mystery of the soul has made people flock to it. Whether it is ancient philosophers or modern scientists, they are obsessed and worshipped by its mysterious meaning, and some religions use the means of soul eternal life, rebirth in heaven, and other means to demagogue people, leading people to the abyss. And Usopp, as a native of China, most of his understanding of the soul comes from Buddhism and Taoism, plus a little animation foundation. One Piece is Andy's soul fruit, Perona's ghost fruit, and Brook's yellow spring fruit. The performance of these fruits in the soul, Usopp believes that it is more like an energy manipulation. Whether it is the life of the ant taken out of other people's bodies, or homies made with part of the soul, it is more like the manipulation of a specific energy of the living body, and whether this manipulation can succeed depends on the other party's will to resist. The ghost fruit also has a little of this feeling. Perona can be out of body. Usopp analysis is actually the fruit energy wrapped Perona's thinking consciousness. From the back, Perona using the ghost fruit to create ghost bombs and other skills. It is indeed proof of this result. As for whether consciousness can be counted as a soul, this is difficult to define. As for the yellow spring fruit, Usopp is actually a little unable to analyze. The matter of returning from the netherworld, first of all. There is a question mark. This is likely to be the mental hallucination after Brook's death that leads to the illusion of seeing the netherworld. After all, what has not been seen cannot be said nonsense, but for the yellow spring fruit, Usopp still has a bit of his own guess. Brook's consciousness is eternal under the protection of the powerful energy of the yellow spring fruit, and the fundamental ability of the yellow spring fruit is not easy to define. In theory, the yellow spring fruit should be the superior fruit of various soul fruits. In case of awakening, he may be a Lich King again. The combat power is so strong that it explodes. It's a pity that Brook's individual single-line control of the soul power, the use of skills, is mostly in some way to affect the other party's soul to produce hallucinations and the like. The soul sword is out of an alternative way of enchantment, and I don't know how Brook's sword still maintains the toughness of metal in such a cold state. Normally his sword should have broken a long time ago. Usopp also couldn't figure this out. I can only say that the fruit is magical. The very handsome Shinigami, although he fights with his soul from beginning to end, whether it is a slashing knife or a ghost path, it is actually in operation on Lingzi, and the overall feeling is like a second body with a soul skin. Not informative. The Hokage is closer to the normal people's understanding of the soul, and there are various ways that can use chakra or living people as sacrifices, summon death to support the scene, and the resurrection seal has also slipped away. It's really like that, but it's actually the path of energy control, and Usopp can't chakra. Although it looks similar to domineering, both physical energy mixed with spiritual energy, but Nima Heavenly Tao is different. The small universe is even more. Well, it seems that the soul understanding of anime is not very good to apply awe. Usopp touched his chin and thought carefully for a while, but originally it was also the practice method of Tibetan Tantra in the previous life, so in the end, he still looked at the two Buddhist paths, and Usopp fell into deeper memories. In essence, the soul is a kind of thing that has and is intangible, and there is no spirit, which is said to be a kind of immaterial master attached to the human body, and the soul dies after leaving the body, which is the unity of life, spirit, thought, feelings, personality, and so on. In fact, people produced the concept of soul in ancient times, but at that time the concept of soul was more materialistic, until after the gradual development of religion and philosophy, the concept of human soul began to tend to a dematerialized spiritual unity. However, so far, there is still no evidence that people have life after death, and certainly there is no evidence that there is no life after death. Biologists believe that the soul is the transmission of information between the synapses of neurons, and that the soul is nothing more than the activity of specific brain nerve cells. Scientists believe that this contains two parts. One is a psychological effect, including cognitive errors caused by delusions and hallucinations, and the other is psychopathology, that is, brain organs are damaged, resulting in forgetting, mental disorders and other phenomena. The other is related to environmental changes, mainly electromagnetic field changes. Human living space is full of electromagnetic waves. The human brain is an electrochemical organ. Bioelectric signals transmit information between brain cells, and powerful electromagnetic fields affect those signals and produce strange vision, touch and hearing. The electromagnetic field acting on the human brain can also lead to different emotions, such as fear, tension, etc., which cause people to see the abnormal phenomenon of the soul. In fact, from the Buddhist point of view, true Buddhism does not accept the concept of the soul, because this cannot be established in the theory of dependent origin and death, standing on the foothold of impermanence of life and death, looking at everything as impermanent and impermanent. This is true in the material world, and the same is true in the spiritual world. Looking at things with the naked eye, the illusion of becoming and not changing often occurs, but if you use sophisticated instruments to see anything, in fact, everything is in an instantaneous change, and the life mentioned in the I Ching actually contains death and death behind life, that is, life and death changes. A more scientific term is the uncertainty principle of quantum mechanics. The Taoist description of the soul is very unique, specific and constructive, and the Taoist view of the soul is based on life medicine and occult theology to analyze the characteristics of the soul in detail, believing that the soul is composed of 3 souls and 7 spirits, and after a person's death, the 7 souls are dispersed first, and then the 3 souls are separated again. Soul, and spirit, the spirit of the soul Lord, and the body of the Lord. But no one has really seen any soul, so what kind of state do I belong to now? As the saying goes, quantum mechanics is not decided in case of trouble, or should you also consider it? Usopp looked down and pondered for a while, and after some systematic analysis and comparison, summarized several pending situations and plans. Anyway, regardless of the nature of the soul, the worst-case original Usopp's soul is still there, and it may take a not very friendly discussion to devour the problem, referring to the standard treatment of the major fantasy worlds, but the matter of cannibalism, Usopp itself is still a little diaphragmatic, regardless of whether it is soul or meat. Aha! It would be preferable to resolve the issue through friendly consultations. The best situation is that Usopp's soul has died, but due to the incomplete fusion of souls, some soul instability phenomena may be fine after a while. The situation in the medium meaning may be a more scientific split personality. Psychology Usopp has not learned much. How to solve the specific solution is still see the actual situation. After all, the authorities are obsessed. If it is not for the buff of the pseudo-sage time, Usopp may not notice the subtle changes in his spirit. Originally thought it was just a mental distraction, but now think about it is actually not simple. After thinking for a long time, Usopp made several layers of plans, how to deal with various situations, and also made detailed plans, whether scientific or mysterious. Usopp has prepared several coping plans. After all, the soul has no experience. It is always right to prepare more. Steady, don't wave. Cross legs. Sit upright. Close your eyes. Meditation. Regulate your breathing. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. Wang. Usopp successfully entered the usual state of concentration. The mind inside and outside is indifferent and pure, although there are external obstacles, but the heart is not nervous, still remain indifferent. Came to the heart lake. Usopp looked carefully. This heart lake is actually just a projection of Usopp's mind. The lake is just the lake that Usopp thinks in his heart. If Usopp thinks it is a ball of light, the universe, then this will become a reflection of the ball of light universe and the like. It is not amorphous. After observing for a long time and not finding any problems, Usopp raised his head, and after perceiving outside the lake, he finally found the problem. There was a small lake outside the Usopp heart lake. Where did it come from? Not yesterday. Why did it suddenly appear? Do you have a lot of question marks in your mind, children? After thinking for a while, suddenly Usopp seemed to realize something, and suddenly realized, it turned out that this was the case. I was not aware of my soul problem before, so the spiritual projection would not be projected, but now I am aware of my own problem, and the spiritual projection will project the problem, which is also idealistic. Usopp was speechless for a while. But Usopp has no experience in consciousness, so let's do it first. Looking at the small lake next to it, Usopp was a little confused. What's the trouble? Drink. Dry. However, Drinking the lake is much stronger than eating people. At least it's acceptable in my heart. Big lakes drinking small lakes are their own things, there should be no problem. Usopp was a little drumming in his heart. Why don't you take a steady look at the situation first? Usopp concentrated his consciousness on the small lake, and his mind gradually sank in, and one picture after another appeared in the bottom of Usopp's heart, so that Usopp gradually developed an understanding. So that's it, Usopp suddenly understood. It turned out that this lake was formed by the gathering of scattered soul factors when Usopp's soul and the original Usopp's soul collided and fused, and the humble cultivation accidentally made it gain a lot of benefits and gradually became stronger, and the recent deepening of its influence on Usopp is also because this lake has almost produced its own personality. However, fortunately, it was discovered early, and now it is only a sporadic interference of consciousness, and it has not completely produced a second personality. It had to be solved sooner, Usopp secretly decided. The solution is also relatively simple, drink it and finish. How to drink? Usopp's heart was a little churning. Try it whether it works or not. Your own spiritual world should be the boss yourself. Thinking of this, Usopp concentrated his spirit on the big lake, controlling the entire lake to rise up and float towards the small lake, ready to directly merge with the small lake. After Usopp controlled the big lake to float over the small lake, wiped, miscalculated. How to do it now? Just drop it. Belch. Do you want to lose it little by little? Usopp thought about the gains and losses for a while, and finally decided to throw it directly, in case the little by little lost was assimilated by the other party. Wouldn't it be an enemy? It's like a ball battle. I don't know why a serious soul battle was made into a ball battle by Usopp. Go you. Usopp's eyes froze in his spirits, and he threw the ball in his hand sharply. The fusion of the two balls did not produce any earth-shattering explosions, nor did there be any standard plots for the second personality. It's just that the big ball popped and swallowed the small ball. Then the ball surged up a big circle. The moist thing is fine and silent, and I ate a fat man in one bite. Anyway, it's all their own things, and it doesn't seem to be much problem when fused, but Xiaocho's subpersonality prototype, the complaining attribute is a little higher, which may affect Usopp's cold character. Gao cold fart. Where does the sound effect come from? Isn't this still a ball battle? Said that the earth-shattering soul battle. A lot of plans have been made a fart in vain. I already knew that it was a ball. I was still worried about a yarn. Directly up and it was over, and I was scared. Sure enough, in the world of pirates, IQ is indeed a superfluous thing. Looking at Luffy's IQ in the first few episodes is still online. The further back you go, the more your IQ is declining. Just like a landslide, the Yellow River flood is unstoppable. Obviously, the skill points are added to the muscles. Looking at Solon, Suoda, who has the title of the King of Road Idiots, can still find the door in the early stage, and lose it in the later stage. It's like a husky, no one is watching, it's gone. Whether you can encounter enemies in battle depends on luck. Usopp has always believed that the Straw Hat Pirates can actually be called the Luck Pirates and hostile forces, as long as luck can't be touched, no matter how strong the strength is, it is for nothing. All of them are the color of sending experience. Looking at the pirate world, the Sand King Clockdar will know. Who's this? Loaded with X ability max, a strong man who can touch porcelain with Whitebeard, the power of fruit awakening, an unworldly master who can shout a few rounds with the generals, and the Marshal of the Navy designates a watchdog. That's it. Was the domineering prince punched to death? Teacher Fu PK went down. Isn't it funny? So Luffy and they are reckless. Usopp really dare not underestimate these early experience points. At that time, it will be too inflated to pretend that X thinks that the Sand King is not Earl, and if you want to go over and grab someone's head, it will not be very beautiful to pretend that X is not a but being X. He is not a big prince, he can add blood by drinking water and eating meat casually, and it is better to have a good flesh and blood, and he must not be strong in case of trouble. After the ball fused, Usopp's spirit was as if the original frosted film was torn off. And suddenly the whole world was clear in several dimensions. There was a small clarity after the new reign of empty mountains, which is a feeling that Usopp has never experienced, so clear and clear. Usopp never thought that a person's perception of the world could be so pure and thorough, things that could not be figured out before. Now the mind can be figured out and understood, and inferences, thinking speed and understanding have skyrocketed by leaps and bounds. The benefits of the surge of the spirit are not only reflected in the impact on thinking and understanding. Usopp found that his control over his physical part has also been strengthened. In the past, the spirit could not directly act on the body, and could only use brain nerve signals to indirectly control the muscles and bones, but now the body shrouded in Usopp's spirit can be slightly shaken by the spirit, This discovery made Usopp a little ecstatic. Isn't this the prototype of life return? The ratio of the two balls Usopp can't know exactly. The area formula of the sphere is remembered clearly, but before smashing, Usopp didn't compare the size of the two balls than expected. So now it's not easy to determine how much mental power has skyrocketed. The overall must have risen but should not have doubled. After Usopp withdrew from the determination, he found that the benefits of the surge in mental power were far more than that, and the impact on reality was also quite deep. His vision was clearer. His perception was more acute. After the cool evening breeze blew through the skin, the contraction of each pore, Usopp could clearly perceive that Usopp's spirit swept the skin to try to control the opening and closing of the pores, but he didn't expect to succeed easily. The state of mental purity and indifference seems to be easily maintained without deliberate control, and pseudo-sage time seems to have become a permanent buff. But I'll experiment later to see if those situations will be broken, and a stable buff is a good buff. This fusion seems to have made Usopp's spiritual practice suddenly break through a relatively large level, and after discovering that he could control pores, Usopp wondered whether he could use pore breathing instead of the original ordinary breathing. Change from external breathing to internal breathing. In the theory of Taoism in the previous life, pore breathing is also called body breathing, also known as fetal breath, that is, breathing like a baby or even an unborn baby, and the whole body is highly unified when practicing kung fu to a certain extent, even if it is a breath and an inhalation. Body breathing is a theory. Ancestors believed that human beings can make up for acquired deficiencies through the adjustment of breathing, and even redevelopment, so that the body has always been in a state of perfection. Taoist theory of immortality is based on this. Warriors are different, and warriors are mainly to achieve the peak state of the body, and return to their original appearance. The actual effect can indeed make the body achieve a certain balance, and you will find that some old diseases that cannot be treated by Western medicine are gone, such as inexplicable joint pain, wind and wet pain, and old diseases formed by martial arts. Of course, the most important thing is that their sensitivity has been effectively improved, their reaction ability has been greatly enhanced, and their minds are calmer than before. External strength is a process of constantly depleting oneself, while internal strength is a process of constantly improving and restoring oneself. So martial arts training should be cultivated both internally and externally. Overexploitation without nourishment will lead to early retirement and pain like the athletes seen in modern times. If you can replace the mouth and nose with pore breathing, and turn from the outside to the inside, then the wounds and losses of Usopp's usual cultivation can be made up and repaired to a certain extent. Both internal and external cultivation to achieve a perfect state of yin and yang balance, such as Luffy is obviously too strong in external cultivation, too heavy internal consumption without knowing it, and each opponent behind makes Luffy overdraw a lot of vitality. Starting from the second gear, Luffy's vitality has been rapidly consumed. Usopp is very skeptical that after Ralph Drew gets the One Piece, Luffy's remaining vitality can support him to live until retirement. In Usopp's view, Luffy's life is like brilliant fireworks. The fireworks are brilliant, only open for a moment, wonderful and beautiful, and never eternal. Alas. It seems that I can only share more opponents for him in the future. I'm still so weak. How pathetic. Thinking of this, the corners of Usopp's mouth twitched. How could he suddenly not have too much hope for the pirate group? The future is not very bright. Never mind. I don't want to think about those headaches. Fate is not so easy to pry. Hard cultivation is over. As for whether you can change those tragedies later. I've been here, I've fought. Do I still need to care about the ending? The fierce increase in mental power made the X number in Usopp's heart a little more and more out of line. Usopp resettled. Want to try that idea? Now the strength of mental power. It seems that you should be able to try to forcibly hook up with domineering. Maybe it will be successful. As the saying goes, a twisted melon is not sweet or sweet, but who cares if it is sweet or not? Twist it down first. In case someone else twists, which makes sense. Usopp slowly controlled his mind and dived deeper into the spirit. Usopp's breathing became longer and longer, and gradually in the absence of conscious control in Usopp, Usopp's external breathing automatically stopped, and turned to be taken over by the pores, and the internal breathing gradually rose. At first the opening and closing of the pores was not smooth enough, but as time gradually became more and more stable, becoming more and more smooth. Rumble. A great unity, great stability, and great harmony from the inside out instantly enveloped Usopp's whole body, making Usopp's spirit continue to go deeper violently. It seems that the opening of internal breathing is not to be forcibly controlled. As long as the realm is reached, it should be naturally opened after entering the realm, and even the usual state can be maintained for a long time after practicing to the depths. And obsessed with control to the contrary fell behind, plainly consuming mental energy. Every pore of Usopp is constantly spitting out the old and new. A cool breath penetrates into Usopp's body from each pore, and begins to move around in his body. Encountering a position that cannot be walked through and accumulating there, it is forcibly bumped away. The breath is cool but not sluggish, and the place where it travels gives people a sense of comfort throughout the whole body, which cannot be described in words. This is a complete unity of body and spirit, bringing a double satisfaction of spirit and body. Usopp at this time there is no part of the body that is not cool and comfortable. A feeling of great joy, in such a situation naturally produced in the bottom of the heart. Usopp is like unloading all the burdens on the body. The flesh from the initial comfort, gradually into an imperceptible state of security, leaving only a clear yang qi and the frequency of the big universe slowly unified. And the power deep in Usopp's body suddenly burst out like a silver bottle bursting through the water slurry, and suddenly surged up from the depths of his body, and rushed into that clear yang qi. Usopp's whole spirit seemed to be split into two, one to observe and think indifferently and calmly from the perspective of spectators, and the other to immerse himself in the realm to stabilize the body and mind. The two spirits make Usopp feel like two sides of yin and yang, harmonious and unified. In this state, Usopp inside and outside the body maintain a great harmony, great unity. There is no hidden power, need to be excavated, need to guide. Everything inside and outside the body is under his control. In this state, all the energy in Usopp's body gradually becomes orderly and harmonious, and under the deployment of natural spirit, it promotes and complements each other, and grows rapidly alternately, so that the strength of different positions of the body can be balanced and complementary. Usopp suddenly realized that this was the true sage time he had always wanted to achieve. It turns out that this is the foundation building. Accidentally repaired. Domineering seems to have woken up successfully, and the control seems to be very smooth. The heart walks at will, and does not need to spend a lot of effort to adapt. As if it was born like this, the remaining three-color domineering ratio only needs to take time to experiment. What does this mean? Did my deposit arrive? The small plugin is going to be turned on. Combat effectiveness to take off. In fact, this fusion did not make a qualitative leap in Usopp's strength. This state is not stable, and it will not have a strong buff effect on combat effectiveness like the plugin. On the outside, it is actually just awakening domineering, but in fact, its biggest benefit is that Usopp's spiritual body and internal and external circulation have been unified, and since then it has gone to the path of double cultivation of real warriors inside and outside. Combined with his previous life, Usopp completely found his way in One Piece's cultivation system. Have a stronger direction that suits you. Usopp knows that no matter what world's power is definitely not. Just rely on stupid self-cultivation and fierce training can be invincible in the world. The plot just lets you know what path you can take. But what path to take is ultimately to find out for yourself. Find the right way, work hard to smooth sailing, find the wrong way, no matter how hard you try, it is just a waste of youth. Maybe you are not even worthy of being a qualified stepping stone. The unity of spirit and flesh, the sense of fulfillment brought by spirit and body, made Usopp feel an indescribable and strange experience, and Usopp suddenly realized that this is entering the path, this is building the foundation. No wonder countless people in previous lives could abandon everything for the sake of practice. This is the truest experience after the completion of life self. Everything is self-sufficient, why the true meaning of seeking foreign things always echoes in Usopp's spiritual power. After the internal breathing was fixed, a feeling naturally arose in Usopp's heart. It seemed that he could not eat for a long time. What was the situation? Cut the valley? Usopp is not very clear. Let's see if the experiment is confirmed later. And it seems that you can also breathe underwater through your pores, which is good news. At least you don't have to worry about drowning in the water after eating the fruit. In the later stage, through strong will and strength, it seems that it can also resist the power of the sea to a certain extent, and will not completely lose its power. Of course, this kind of foundation building success does not mean that Usopp is invincible from now on. Nor is it to the foundation building period of fairy fantasy. This is the orthodox Taoist practice in the previous life. And the physiological state naturally produced after reaching the realm. Cannot fly the sword, nor can it make a spiritual energy formation or something. Which can only show that now Usopp's body inside and outside the foundation is laid. The relationship between spirit and body from the original division and rule. Continuous consumption, into harmony and unity, mutual promotion and integration, can supplement itself. If you maintain this state for a long time, not only will the vitality not be consumed by hard work, but will become stronger because of the supplement a little bit, which is why the masters of the ancient internal and external double cultivation have a long lifespan. The vitality of life is not consumed, but also grows, and naturally can see for a long time. But Usopp has only achieved this realm through the skyrocketing of his soul now, and in the future, he still needs to practice hard and consolidate it in order to truly digest it into his own thing. Ideographic period. The morning sun passed through the window, scattering specks of light on Usopp's face, and Usopp's expression moved slightly and withdrew from the settlement, and he raised his hands and stretched out greatly. Ah, so comfortable, so comfortable. No wonder it is said that Shu-Gen has no years. I felt that I was just in a trance in dadding for a short time, but I didn't expect that the sky was already light. Usopp stretched and sighed. The overnight meditation practice did not make Usopp feel tired, but made him feel refreshed and refreshed. Usopp got up, straightened the quilt, washed his face, and stood in the doorway. Breathe in the refreshing morning breeze, smell the earthy smell in the air, and listen to the rustling of plants swaying with the wind. Usopp felt everything around him again, and felt the different vitality in them that he had never noticed before. Tears overflowed Usopp's eyes with emotion. This is Usopp who crawled in desire in his previous life, never felt the most real side of nature, the most vivid side, the most throbbing side. This throbbing makes people understand what is great love and what is broad. Thinking of my previous life, I was blinded by desire, blinded by my spirit, my heart was cloudy, and my gods were covered in dust. Until now, the dust is gone, shining through the mountains and rivers. Usopp then knew how pathetic and small he was living in desire. Thinking of this, Usopp couldn't help but feel sad and joyful, while sighing why he only now understood this truth, and on the other hand, he felt heartfelt sadness for his past. But now that the spiritual practice is also a small achievement, Usopp let go of his worries, and then he became happy. Instead, you can try how effective the sword technique is in the time of the true sage. That's something to look forward to. Since the domineering awakened, then the domineering practice naturally began to plan, but the process of induction does not seem to be familiar enough and not smooth enough. First focus on seeing and smelling, can also complement the sword technique. First of all, familiarize yourself with the impact of the overall improvement of spirit and realm on the battle, and after replanning the training plan below, the current training intensity seems to be insufficient enough. Usopp touched his chin and pondered for a while. Thinking about today's training project, Usopp began the daily greasy breakfast production process. Big fish and meat are standard, although it seems that internal breathing can replace eating, but Usopp believes that this substitution should only ensure the minimum life consumption of the ability to sustain, cannot really replace the large amount of energy consumption in training. The late General Green Bull in One Piece seems to have no need to eat, but it should be caused by the ability of the fruit. Maybe it is a vegetative person, and he can use sunlight to irradiate synthetic energy, which can save a lot of things. After all, in addition to fierce training, it is really painful to do the work of washing dishes and cooking against exhaustion, and without dish soap, the greasy of big fish and meat is also quite difficult to clean. If photosynthesis can replenish enough energy consumption, Usopp feels very good, so that Usopp, who is always washed, has some small envy in his heart. Usopp didn't actually feel hungry, but he still ate 2 huge retreats. Why was it always hind? The front legs were given to Beechil and the old blacksmith couple, so only the hind legs remained. Mainly because there is more meat on the hind legs, it is easy to make. By the way, the new pistol is also in hand, then the replacement of bullets will also be put on the agenda. Yellow powder has been made in several copies, but the most perfect ratio of explosive power has not been adjusted, and gunpowder has not begun to be made. The assembly line of the warhead cartridge case will also begin to be designed. The sight, the 8-fold mirror does not have much, but the significance of the color multiplier mirror is not much, and the sight calibration should be no problem. Usopp's development is actually simply displayed on Justice Island, and you can accurately perceive Robin's location from an unknown distance. There is also a Battle of Doflamingo, which also uses ultra-long-range attacks to second Sugar. So Usopp felt that the mirror didn't mean much to him. Alas! There are so many things, really busy and fulfilling, Usopp simply sighed. In fact, Usopp does not know how much power his combat system can exert in real guns and live ammunition. After all, there is no theory that has been practiced, and it cannot make people feel confident enough. Moreover, the top powerhouses in this world are strong and inhuman, and destroying mountains and seas is only idle. Among them, there are many bridges that Usopp can't understand, such as the shining fruit of the yellow monkey. A light wave hitting something can actually explode. The essence of light is electromagnetic waves. Even if the frequency energy level is terrifying, shining on the object is at most similar to the laser to melt the object. How can it explode? Can't figure it out. It's really inscrutable. If you have to forcibly arrange a cause and effect, it is only possible to say that the physical law constants of the pirate world are not the same as those of the Earth. Usopp thought. If Heisenberg, Schrödinger, and these great gods come to the pirate world, it is estimated that they can dominate the world by casually engaging in some elemental superhuman fruits. Study the world of God, develop the ability to develop fruits with a scientific outlook on development, and stimulate it when you think about it. At that time, the strongest fruit is estimated to be none other than the weapon fruit, developed into nuclear bombs, hydrogen bombs, neutron bombs, antimatter weapons, positive electronic cannons. What kind of heavenly king, sea king, 5 old stars, 4 emperors, and generals, dare to come to find trouble? It will be a pot of stew. Every time he thought of real knives and guns and people chopping fights, Usopp was a little encouraged. After all, Usopp has always grown up under the light of harmonious socialism, and everyone lives according to the principle of being able to force and never do anything. Suddenly coming to such a world where bloodshed will occur if you don't agree with each other, it's really a little hesitant, and I don't know how those peers can suddenly adapt to the life of another world. Cut people without mercy. Not killing millions of people is the same as living for nothing, and not playing games. How can you suddenly have such a strong psychological quality? Killing people is indeed a bit difficult for Usopp. Otherwise the fishmonger and eldest cousin Yan would have survived to this day. They have long been cut in the heart countless times. I just haven't dared to do it. Otherwise, just find something. What do you see? Look at you. The knife will be done. The rest is left to fate. It's a pity that Usopp can only poke and sulk alone now, thinking of the destined experience value opponent Zangao, the Catman brother, the big butler and others in the future, and Usopp who already has the skill of Jianao, he still feels a little less confident. Although he has also persuaded himself countless times that these people are evil people with bloody hands, living is wasting air, harming others, and eliminating evil. But really think of using his own gun to blast a living human head. This face still makes Usopp a little breathless. A living human life. How can you casually get your hands on it? Collect the corpses after beating the dead. Otherwise it is not good to scare the children, and pollute the environment. Alas. Troublesome. Think so much. What if someone killed him? Then it's better to kill others, and you should work hard and make trouble, and it's fun to help others. Alas. I'm still too weak. The boat will naturally go straight to the bridge. It is useless to think about that much. In case it is really forced to that part, it can only make the opponent ask for blessings. Usopp sighed in a somewhat melancholy whisper. Usopp also likes the quiet years, but the reality is that the river is rushing, and if it does not advance, it will retreat, and the moment of fear, that is, he chose the way to death. The road of freedom fighters has never been so smooth. For the stability and prosperity of the pirate world, your destined opponents can only invite you to rob with regret and helplessness. Fight for the crossing, startle a pool of gulls. Ideographic period. The training of firearms has been temporarily terminated. The feel of the old gun cannot be carried into the new gun, and the training of accuracy is no longer so important to the current Usopp, so wait until the bullet is messed up and then get familiar with it again. The fusion of sword moves and gunfighting moves makes Usopp a little entangled. After all, gunfighting cannot be regarded as pure sword art, although there are mutual gains, but the sword move should not be completely fused with gunfighting. The two skills in addition to the blended part. Other parts do not need to be forcibly fused. Fusion for the sake of fusion is really not necessary. Each of them retains their own essence but can exert their own power. The basic training has been continuously strengthened. After all, the root and motivation of all abilities in the pirate world comes from physical strength, and if physical strength is not good, everything is empty. If you don't want to be carried by the death salesman who rushed the performance, you better work hard. The weather in Sibro village is always so good. I have been here for so long, and there have not been a few heavy rains. Obviously it is a small island. Usopp is now lying on the stone slab of the training ground, like a salted fish that has not yet dried, and the place wet with sweat is quickly dried by the sun, leaving only a faint trace of salt. The flowers are scorching, the grass is hairy, and the salty sea breeze blows through Usopp's tired body, bringing a little coolness and vitality to his scorching body, and a certain salted fish wants to turn over. After all, it is always sunburned, and it is easy to black and not uniform enough. Usopp thought that Headmaster Gu might like this place. After all, this is a place where even the arm sockets can be tanned. Tiredness makes Usopp unable to effectively maintain his own buff. Without the blessing of buff, all subsystems of Usopp's body began to work hard to express their dissatisfaction. All kinds of fantasies began to try to capture Usopp's brain. Why risk the sun to cultivate? It's too stupid. X, who proposed this stupid X's plan, has something to practice. It's better to eat honestly. I really want to drink water. What is the meaning of life? Send death with the group. Happy to hit a broken bone. Doesn't it smell good to stay at home? I don't know what the Kia girl looks like. In the afternoon, I have to practice a fart. I still have to do the design drawings, can I do that thing? All kinds of messy thoughts a lot, and finally these messy thoughts are unified into one sentence: what to eat for lunch. Exercising against the scorching sun makes Usopp's water consumption a little huge. It seems that some water tanks should be prepared around the training ground. It is best to build a freshwater pool. You can swim or something, you can also cool off. The awning also has to be arranged, and braving the scorching sun is also a bit of a way to die. Alas. How is it busier than going to work? When will you be able to live a refined life? The owner of the big house has not yet returned, and the luxury plan must be carried out, and when the time comes, raise some people first and take care of the logistics. There is not much time for practice, but it is not to be wasted. Usopp made up his mind. If you want to make money, you have to do it. Dragging his tired body and resisting the extreme defiance of the flesh, Usopp began to prepare lunch, and the traps and fish ponds still maintained a rich harvest. Just Usopp alone, ho-ho, even eat and sell much, in this world where the sea is the theme. More fish is normal, otherwise how do those giant sea kings live? In the previous life, the whales had a lunch of several tons, and their length was only more than 30 meters. How big is the Sea King class in the pirate world? Ordinary is more than 1,000 meters, the giant Sea King class that appears on the Mermaid Island is generally more than 5,000 meters. How is the concept? A normal person runs from beginning to end, it takes at least 40 minutes, and it takes 30 minutes to start if you run faster. Even the king of the offshore of the East China Sea, right? Even the overlord who killed the 4 emperors' red-haired arm was also more than 100 meters long, and a tooth was more than 1 person tall. How much to eat for this meal? The lair of the windless belt in the Sea King overlord, there are countless monsters inside, so how much food to consume every day, it is scary to think about. It is estimated that they do not like to eat people, or it may be because people are too small to plug their teeth. Tiredness made Usopp's requirements for food refinement and variety a lot lower, and he casually made a few big fish with a good taste, plus half a crocodile king, and a little wild vegetable salad in the forest, and you will eat a bite. But a cup of tea after the meal is absolutely indispensable for Usopp. No matter what happens, Usopp, who used to be a literary commissioner, has very high requirements for his own style, and only so much persistence, so even if the world explodes, you must drink a cup before the explosion. Ah, comfortable, the only beautiful embellishment in life is at this moment, satisfaction, gratitude. Usopp let out a low groan of comfort and took a sip of lemon tea. I don't know if it's metaphysics or a hint in my heart, anyway, after drinking tea, Usopp is obviously in much better spirits, and after eating and resting for a while, he has also recovered a lot of physical strength. Come on, friends, get up and exercise. Really strong to cheer up. Sit cross-kneeled. Drip. Pseudo-Sage Time buff rebooted successfully. Usopp hung up the buff, immediately felt a burst of comfort. The sound of various parts in the body finally disappeared, picked up the water cup next to him and poured a few sips of water, and then casually picked up the wind next to him and inserted it on his waist, walking to the depths of the forest. Don't do it against the sun, grandfather, in the afternoon. Don't think it's dark enough. Recently, Usopp has stopped training with the bean mechanism, and the free fall of the bean is too slow to play any training role, so during this time Usopp still does the basic sword swinging training in weight-bearing mode, and the requirement of this time is that the sword body must be stable and cannot shake while swinging the sword. Every time the sword is drawn, the tip of the sword is pointed to the mark point around it. The pursuit of stability, but also to pursue the speed of swinging the sword. And strive to swing the most swords in the shortest time. If stability is the absolute control of muscle strength, then high-speed combos are super high requirements for muscles and wrists. Combos to ensure speed, absolutely not raw pull hard, can be achieved. To make full use of the elasticity and inertia between the muscles and bones. But also to cooperate with the corresponding body technique. Sword after sword, not only to be coherent and smooth, but also the power of each blow can be incrementally superimposed to be considered successful. During this time, Usopp has already produced 3 swords. Each sword power can increase by about 30%. After the 3 swords, Usopp is a little unable to control the strength of the sword. The accuracy of cutting out of the trend has dropped significantly. The decline in accuracy has led to the subsequent action out of shape, and the cooperation of the muscles and bones has decreased. This move is naturally broken, although the power is good, but in Usopp's heart this is a failed sword. However, if the sword is cut to the opponent, through the opponent's attack or defense to unload, but can always keep stable combos, how to say, as long as the strength of Usopp's sword does not reach the standard of loss of control. Then the opponent will always fall into the quagmire of Usopp's high-speed combo of swordsmanship, until it is hacked to death by Usopp, or Usopp's own strength is out of control. Of course, the upper line of this power out of control is still improving, and the opponent must also bear the powerful blow before losing control, or the opponent forcibly breaks the game with higher speed power. But overall this is a relatively good way to play, and the word lie Usopp likes. It's the same as go. Reminds Usopp of playing the King of Fighters with his friends when he was a child, an era when upper legs and lower legs dominated martial arts. Lie did not exist, this is technology. A left hook punch and a right hook punch, a sentence that the person who provokes me is in danger. Of course, this combo is not easy to practice, after Usopp proposed this idea in the early stage. He carried out a lot of targeted training, but the inexperienced Usopp could not quickly grasp the mysteries. The initial training method was to forcibly stop the sword momentum, and then change the direction to attack back, which led to Usopp's arm was often strained by strong inertia, and later on that moonlit night Usopp understood the magic of elasticity of muscles and bones, and this trick gradually entered the best situation. In the state of full mental concentration, Usopp can briefly reach the level of sword how, and only then can he have the realm of chopping iron, but unfortunately physical strength is still a weakness, and the state of full mental concentration can be regarded as an advanced version of pseudo-sage time, but it is different from the development direction of pseudo-sage time. One is to maintain a state of mind, and the other is highly concentrated. Chopper's weak point attack is combined with a high-speed sword combo, and Usopp gives this move a name, and it all focuses on a flash. Usopp tentatively envisaged a target of 10 consecutive attacks per second, and the attack power of the last blow was 3 times that of normal attacks. Shaving has to step on more than a dozen feet in a row. 10 consecutive is a small goal. By that time, it should be able to gain a slight foothold in this world where power is king, but there is still a long way to go. The road is long, and I can only seek it up and down. After finishing his sword training, Usopp took a break, took out a teacup in his bag, boiled some hot water, and drank a cup of tea first. After being fully satisfied, Usopp is ready to officially start the domineering exercise. What's the trouble? Usopp with a sword in his hand, a little bit out of the picture. Recall yesterday's steps. First come to a big unification, and then you can turn on the aura of passive hookup domineering. Come on. Let's start by making a decision. Usopp found a flat and dry grass and prepared to meditate first, but he didn't wait for Usopp to get into the state. Buzz, 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 Nima. The sword in Usopp's hand shot out, several sword lights flashed, and there were several more nameless corpses on the grass. After adjusting his mood, Usopp was ready to start his ideals again. Buzz, 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 Nima. Usopp was furious. Forget it and go home. This groundbreaker is not suitable for cultivating high-end domineering. After all, Usopp is not a natural leakage type, and it seems that the seduction type still has a bit high environmental requirements. Usopp secretly underestimated a few words. Carry a sword. Go home. After washing, change into clean and relaxed pajamas. Pay attention to people, no matter when changing the details of life. The so-called details determine success or failure. These times changed the slightly more generous Usopp in his hand, bought himself a lot of clothes. Originally all kinds of training is very consuming clothes, and washing clothes is also a waste of time, so Usopp simply bought a lot, so that you can replace and wear for many days, wash together. High efficiency and hassle-free. After doing the necessary mosquito repellent work, Usopp sat cross-legged on the bed, placed it on the length of his legs one by one, and slowly entered a fixed state. At some point, the outer breath is naturally taken over by the inner breath. The soreness of daytime training gradually recovers and dissipates after the inner breathing is turned on. Drip. True sage time opens. The comfort of great unification and harmony hovered in Usopp's heart again, and Usopp, who once again felt the brilliance of socialism, took the initiative to focus on domineering this time. Soon that force was hooked up by Usopp, not so much hooking up as pandering. Thunder and fire naturally got together, just like the bustard as soon as he entered the door and greeted warmly. The boss opened the bottle of wine you saved last time this time. Usopp is a bit of an old customer at this time. This Nima is kind of going to be harmonized. The first time to control this force made Usopp a little uncertain. But Usopp didn't think so much. First fuse a wave to see the effect. Waka Pirate World Master View. Usopp did not carefully control, just let the spiritual power and that power naturally fuse. The fusion of the power is very docile, a little waving like a finger feeling. Usopp began to guide this force to move to the hand. After reaching the hand, Usopp sensed for a long time it seems that nothing special happened. Entanglement, coverage is nothing. What's the situation? Not enough volume. It could be. Thinking of this, Usopp continued to concentrate the fusion power into his hand. Usopp learned from the experience of the last ball and said it recklessly. Buzz. Not a mosquito. The energy gathered to a certain extent, as if suddenly breaking through a certain level. Usopp's entire palm was suddenly covered with a layer of black armed color. Wipe. This becomes kind of interesting. How long is a song? How invincible is, how lonely. How invincible is, how empty. The successful formation of the armed color condensation made the X number in Usopp's heart begin to swell a little again. Usopp didn't care why it was first covered without winding. It doesn't matter anyway, it's not. Who cares about cheap goods with premium goods? At this moment, Usopp suddenly had a flash of light, his eyes focused on the wind in his hand, and there was an impulse in his heart, or was it expanding the point? Just do it. Usopp poured all the armed color condensed in his hand into the wind in his hand. Boom. Boom. I rub. It's not the same as imagined. What about good coverage? What is this black arc? Lao Tai still has a secret that he didn't tell me. Usopp was frightened by the scene in front of him. This feeling was like charging a mobile phone. The battery was not charged, but the mobile phone suddenly exploded, and the wind in his hand was not covered by domineering, but was shrouded in a black electric light. Is this the real gameplay of Thunder Fury chasing the wind? Black lightning? Domineering electricity? Thunder Fury? What are the special scientific principles? This makes me, a science graduate in Greater China, a bit confused. Still confused, Usopp looked at the wind with electric sparks in his hands, still a little unacceptable. Thunder and lightning. Ordinary energy can be seen everywhere in previous lives, as large as aircraft rockets, as small as mobile phone electronic watches can be seen everywhere. Thunder and lightning are also the standard skills of various gods in mythical stories, and Usopp himself can casually come up with more than a dozen power generation methods, but Usopp can't think of how to rack his brains, and the routine of special domineering power generation. Is this the same principle as Qigong power generation in the previous life? Usopp was really a little crazy and a little frightened in his heart. After all, whoever suddenly held a lightning bolt in his hand could not accept it with such pleasant excitement. Isn't this special leakage? The weapon master is a little material. This is to want my own life. I didn't expect that Lao Tai still understands domineering power generation. Really a good seedling of an electric engineer. The sledgehammer smashes out the circuit and asks if you are afraid. Lao Tai who waits for Lao Su to survive. Look, if I don't kill you, the manual is not there. Usopp gritted his teeth. Usopp has begun to spray incoherently at this time, and the effect of all buffs is also obviously in a closed state, and Usopp's control of domineering power that withdraws from the time of the true and false sages suddenly drops to the freezing point. Isn't that out of control? Can't you just point it? Now the lightning type domineering on the sword is in an uncontrollable state. Usopp cannot take it back operation, of course. He does not dare to recycle it. This is not the gentle little arc before. Who knows how much voltage is above now? Holding a high voltage line in his hand, it almost makes you scare yourself. Just ask you if you panic. Proud or not. But in the future, when facing the enemy, it is estimated that the opponent will also have to be instigated, of course, no matter what psychology the enemy will have in the future. Usopp is now a really panicked batch. Cultivation is too dangerous. If you are not careful, you will go to a dead end. Is it still time to retreat from the group? No. This is not very harmonious. Hold on and win. Usopp secretly cheered himself up, tried his best to control himself to calm down. At least he has not been electrocuted yet, indicating that there is still time to think of a way. First think about how to release this electricity is the right solution. Now Kaijun Sage time also seems a little unrealistic. Emotions are stirring at the threshold, not very calm, or throw the sword on the ground to discharge yourself. Forget it. What's up here? It's domineering. Although it is not much, casually throw it on the ground. In case it breaks out and bombard this home is not a small meaning. The small house that has just been built, the newly paved floor tiles, is still a little leisurely, and it hurts to break it. When do you care about these foreign objects? Isn't this not dead yet? This is not breaking out. What's the hurry? Or find a tree to cut down. You can give it a try. Usopp pondered in his heart, carefully carrying the sword out of the house. Thunder flashed on the wind-chasing sword, and Usopp's face flashed with tears. Usopp tiptoed carefully to a large tree that he usually practiced sword chopping. Gestured the distance. Well, this distance. You should not die yourself. Come on. Juvenile. Give it a go. Eagle strikes the sky. Usopp put on the posture of drawing his sword, and he had to die handsome, a person with pursuit, a person with taste, a person who had been a literary and artistic committee, and he had to retain the last dignity and the last compulsion when he died. At the moment before the sword, Usopp obviously had a few drops of sweat on his forehead, but at this moment he couldn't care about anything else, snorted coldly, chanted words in his mouth, his eyes focused on the tree, and the wind in his hand immediately turned into a black light flash, and suddenly a thick black electric arc rose from the ground and connected to the tip of the sword, slashed across the ground at a speed beyond his thinking, and slammed into the trunk. First, there was a violent flash, which for Usopp was like just coming out of a dog hole and hitting a flash bomb in the face, and the whole world was dazzling, before Usopp could adapt. Immediately after that, there was another loud bang, and a big thunderbolt on a sunny day. This loud bang shook Usopp on the spot, and he was temporarily deaf. Deaf and blind, Usopp immediately panicked, and the two major ways for people to obtain information from the outside world were suddenly cut off, just like being halfway through an elevator and suddenly losing power. Are you afraid to panic? However, at this time, Usopp's reason still continued to occupy the high ground of intelligence. Although he panicked, Usopp still did not dare to move, because Usopp was not sure whether the black thunder and lightning on the sword were released cleanly, just according to the momentum just now. Even if there was only a little residue of his small body, it was estimated that he could not withstand it. Or go for a wave, wait for the eyes to recover and see the situation. Usopp stood in place and did not dare to move, did not dare to put down the sword in his hand, and put a step voltage on the ground. Even if there is no such thing, what if it explodes when it hits the ground? Be honest and hold on, you can win. Usopp continues to maintain that handsome posture, and tears continue to gush from Usopp's eyes. After being washed by tears for 5 or 6 minutes, Usopp finally felt that his eyes seemed to be able to see something vaguely, and opened his eyes hard. The red blood was already covered with the whites of Usopp's eyes. The sharp pain made Usopp close his eyes sharply, and it took a while to slowly open them again. At this time Usopp could already see things around him a little, and the soreness was also within an acceptable range, but the tears continued to gush out. Okay. Just recently dry eyes. Usopp rubbed his eyes and looked ahead to see the results. I wiped. This Nima is a little irritable. It's good to be stable. I didn't deal with it casually, otherwise this is the end of the next awe. In front of Usopp, a scorched black trace extending from the front of the body to the trunk of the tree is obviously caused by a strong arc across the ground, and some floor tiles with a weak physical structure have been split into slag, and the big tree in front is even more miserable. The entire trunk has been directly split into many parts, scattered all over the ground, and some of the remains are still burning with tender small flames. After confirming the look in his eyes, Lao Tai was really the one who wanted to kill me. To you are not thin, old iron. Usopp looked at the wind that resumed the slippery water slippery in his hand, and was a little hesitant. This long-range attack is so sharp, it is really very gratifying. After all, in the era of close combat and no way to live, long range is king. But Usopp still likes stable and within his control. This kind of move that is easy to kill himself in case he is not sure is still forget it. And it is seriously inconsistent with his own ways. Tomorrow, it seems that I will go to the weapon master to return the goods, at least for a repair. Otherwise this cannot be domineering, not half of the martial arts. I don't know how the master after sales service is. Almost killed me. Don't touch a porcelain is a little sorry for yourself. Usopp rubbed his chin with a trembling hand, thinking, and with the other hand, he carefully put Thunder Fury Windmaster on the table, for fear of another adverse reaction. A sense of déjà vu of charging a certain star's mobile phone. The frightened Usopp was not ready to practice at night, so take a day off, eat something good, and suppress the shock with a cup of milk tea. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. The next day, Usopp deliberately wore a torn dress, came to the blacksmith shop with an angry face, and sorted himself out a little before entering the door, so that he looked more miserable. Touch porcelain to be professional, as the saying goes, do a line of love. Of course, in fact, Usopp will not really touch the porcelain, just as a joke, by the way to occupy the initiative. However, all this was really seen by Ahir on the side, and Ahir looked at Usopp with a black line on his face to prepare for the performance. Wicked beasts. What kind of demon is this child going to do? Heaven. Lao sang, Sunderland, you come out, look at the broken sword you made, almost killed Lao Su yesterday. What about people? Usopp started shouting when he walked in the door. What a shout. Your kid has itchy skin, isn't it? It's time for your kid to feel the love of society. The weapon master gritted his teeth and said, Usopp's rudeness obviously touched the weapon master G-spot. HMPH. Old Sang, think I'm not thin enough to take you with Usopp. The supply of big fish and meat, I still devote myself to you, and I want to give you the end of life. You treat me like this? Why did you kill me? Usopp was now ready to touch the porcelain, and rightly said. The longest thing a thick-skinned person says is, I don't treat you thinly. It seems that Usopp has already learned this deeply. Ah. Kill you. What does it mean? Yesterday, your aunt and I have been discussing the origin of life at home, and I didn't go out. Where did it come from to harm you? Don't talk nonsense. Usopp's words puzzled the old blacksmith. What did this kid say? Brain Watts. Usopp listened to the weapon master's refusal 3 times and fell into a hang-up state on the spot. This smooth sense of speech, perfect alibi. Lao Sang is a man with a story. Hey, what do you want? Okay, don't mess around. Hurry up and say what's the matter. Your aunt's kitchen knife next door hasn't been beaten yet. Today to pick up the goods, don't delay time. Or I'll be thought to death. The weapon master asked seriously, and Sunderland did not take the previous words seriously, and did not know whether he was broad-minded or accustomed to Usopp's bohemianism. So, Usopp looked at a serious weapon master, and honestly and obediently said what happened last night. I wipe. The weapon master was stunned when he listened, and then the corners of his mouth twitched, and his mentality exploded instantly. Dog day. How old is it? So self-taught and domineering. What kind of back wave is this? Can it still give the front wave a way to live? Can I still face this baby now? Is this the domineering inheritance of the ancient One Piece? It's so unscientific. Usopp's story makes Sunderland wonder if she's really old. The beautiful mood at the beginning of the day suddenly fell to a trough. What kind of monster is this? And now children are so perverted. I think that with Lao Tzu's talent, I learned this skill through hardships until I was 25 years old, and you little fart found it by yourself. Can I believe it? But thinking about it, Usopp didn't seem to have any need to lie. Calm. I want to be calm. I can't let this little fart know that he is a monster now, otherwise his tail will not be cocked to the sky. Where will I put my face in the future? The weapon master muttered in his heart and decided on the next course of action. Oh. It turns out that the domineering awakening it's not a big deal, huh? It's not bad to wake up at this age. Although it is still so bad compared with Lao Tzu, it is already very strong. Not bad, not bad, the weapon master began to force himself to boast, laughing, and his rough big hand slammed Usopp on the shoulder, not knowing what he was covering. Behind the door, Ahir helplessly covered his face with his hand, and he really couldn't stand it. So what is the problem with this sword of the uncle now? Can it be returned? Usopp asked with an innocent look. Return? You're going to die. Lao Tzu spent half his life to fight, you have to return it. Wife. What about my knife? I'll chop this kid today. Sunderland was furious, and the broken thought mode was successfully turned on. Forget it. I originally wanted to wait for the day you go to sea to tell you. This is the biggest secret of this sword, and the cooperation of Thunderstone with my family's secret recipe can obtain such a terrifying effect. The old blacksmith paused and swallowed. Continue to say positively. The biggest function of this sword is to activate the domineering chi and make cool lightning special effects, and the activated domineering attack is extremely violent, which can be said to have reached the limit of the domineering single-point attack. Otherwise, how to match the name of Thunder Fury? You just say that the cow is not the cow. Special effects? Can be low-key no. And the name is after I got it. Usopp whispered to himself. Of course, this is not the most bullish The most bullish approval is that the activated domineering energy can be absorbed back into the body and can also enhance the physical body, and it has no strengthening effect on the enemy. You can only electrocute the enemy to death. After all, domineering comes from their own recycling, and they don't recognize their own things, but they are not so polite to the enemy. If you are unhappy, Lao Tzu has long known your fundamental problem. Otherwise the ghost will give you the treasure at the bottom of the box. The weapon master has learned to automatically filter Usopp's complaints, pretending not to hear them. Didn't expect that, kid. How about surprises and not thrills? Don't be too impressed. Just give Lao Tzu a good pension. At this time, the old blacksmith possessed by the white beard continued to say hi to himself. Brother, it's quite old. Can we talk without selling cute? Usopp's mouth continued to carry him on the brink of death. But he was already pleasantly surprised, because he caught the key word. Electrotherapy can strengthen the flesh. This Usopp has always been weak, and there is a way to quickly become stronger. Although this method is similar to the way of quitting internet addiction, Usopp is a little uncomfortable in his heart, but the problem is not big, it is good to become stronger. The human brilliance of Lao Tai in Usopp's heart suddenly became hot. Good man. Usopp and the old blacksmith fiercely discussed the later maintenance of the wind-chasing sword, and at the strong request of Aunt Ahir, Usopp had lunch at the blacksmith shop before going back, and on the way back, Usopp had already thought of several sets of plans for the development of the flesh and the coordination of the wind-chasing sword. This feeling of being hung up to the account really made Usopp feel a little inflated. Suddenly, an unmeasured thought lingered in Usopp's heart. Look at this death-defying look. Why not have a friendly exchange with Lao Tai to see his strength? When the thoughts are together, they grow uncontrollably in the bottom of the heart. The more Usopp thought about it, the stronger the idea became. Then don't pull it out. Just do it with his mother's shot. 2nd Battalion Commander. Put Lao Tzu's Italian cannon. Usopp hurried to stop his thought slippage and turned around and ran back to the smithy. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. Old Mulberry, huh? Didn't you go back? What are you doing back again? Still want to rub dinner? I told you that it was not okay. I made an appointment with your aunt to go to the moon in the evening. You don't come to disturb the normal life of our husband and wife. Sunderland fragmentation mode is on. Little brother has something to ask for. Don't know if to talk about it. Usopp paid no attention to the weapon master's refusal. A mature salesperson should have the ability to introduce the product in the event of customer rejection. Huh. Then don't talk about it. Old Sang, you learned badly. Usopp was choked by the weapon master who did not play according to the routine. You kid definitely didn't hold any good farts, and there are farts to release quickly. When you're done, get out of here. Usopp's character value in Weapon Master, which has maintained a very good downward trend. There have been 3 consecutive dips. I want to talk to you, inside. Inside. Martial arts. Usopp rubbed his hands. Oh. The arrogant little ghost has just awakened his domineering spirit and has come to challenge the old-timers. It's really presumptuous. Not interested though. Don't go. The old blacksmith squinted. Lords must not be a little bloody. Touch it. Old iron. Anyway, didn't you want to cut me for a long time? Usopp decided to try the 36 trick method. Not interested. Sunderland waved his hand and buried his head in the kitchen knife. Look. It's rare to meet a domineering master like you in your life. So can you take a moment to point me to this junior student who has never seen the world? Usopp skillfully dressed up as a dogleg and asked nervously. No Shinshin husband. Domineering master. Forget it. If you want Master Ben to give him guidance, that's not impossible. Who let Master Ben love his juniors so much? Since you are so sincerely pleading, there is really no way, so I can point you out casually. The corners of Sunderland's mouth were almost grinning. How long has it been since you boasted? Usopp looked at the weapon master with a black line on his face, and had begun to wander on the great voyage. This happy look really made Usopp feel a little unbearable to interrupt. It's not appropriate to fight here. If you break your aunt's temper, go to the woods where you practice. The weapon master said calmly after returning to his senses. Usopp nodded quickly. You're right, wife. I'll go out with Usopp. After Sunderland turned and howled at the back hall, he turned and followed Usopp into the grove. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. Drill through the grove seriously. One after the other, the two came to the place where Usopp was training daily, and the surrounding circle of originally dense woods was now in a devastating shape. There is an open space in the middle, which is a perfect PK place. Today's wind is a little noisy. The air was filled with this dignified smell. Usopp has never been cautious enough about this mysterious blacksmith, a character never mentioned in comics and anime, giving Usopp the feeling of a Shaolin sweeping monk. I don't know why the seniors like to live in seclusion in the novice village, and occasionally pop up to point out the juniors to show their sense of existence. What's the matter? What kind of play? The old blacksmith asked casually. I'm okay, it's up to you, but first say okay, I'll bring a weapon don't cry if you lose. Usopp also replied forcefully. A little gutsy, little ghost. It's not interesting to fight with you, junior, I'll just go empty-handed. Come on, gremlin. Let Lao Tzu see your strength. The weapon master expressed full confidence, and a little ghost who had just awakened his domineering spirit also let Lao Tzu sail in the gutter. Funny. Is this the demeanor of a master? Usopp muttered secretly as he looked at the stable Sunderland master standing in front of him. Wait a minute. Give me 5 minutes, let me add a buff first, Sunderland interrupted just as he thought Usopp was going to strike. Good. Just give you 5 minutes, hurry up. There are quite a few small things. Sunderland helplessly thought on the side, who let him be an elder. Just as the so-called shooting people first shoot horses, Killing people first curse the heart. Sunderland is now in full swing. You must first file his sharp energy, otherwise fight. With Usopp's current domineering want to win too difficult. Usopp sat cross-kneeled and began to settle. The old blacksmith next to him also made him feel at ease, not worried about being harassed by the outside situation. Usopp now has to calm down. It takes about 10 minutes, but he told Sunderland for 5 minutes, mainly to continue to wear down the patience of the other party. Waiting for the unknown always makes people feel anxious, angry. Solving its troubles, frustrating its sharpness, and playing tactics is the respect that a master deserves. How can it be called the heart? Besides, isn't my job as a sniper ambushing people? Are they all ambushed, or do they care if his heart is not heart? After 10 minutes, the weapon master could already feel obvious impatience, and Usopp was not prepared to go too far. Too much could easily backfire. Usopp stood still, a few meters away from Sunderland, and looked at Sunderland with pure eyes. There is no domineering momentum, only a bland artistic conception. Looking at Usopp's indifferent expression at this time, Sunderland also noticed a trace of abnormality. Looking at this in front of him, he looked at the little ghost who grew up, and Sunderland suddenly had a strange and familiar feeling in his heart. This is no ordinary imp anymore. The feeling at this moment is completely different from just now. Be careful. The white stripe in the waves cannot capsize in this small gutter. Sunderland is secretly guarded in his heart. Come on, old San. I'm going on. Come on, baby. Output with confidence. As soon as the words fell, Usopp raised his hand in the direction of Xander and fired 2 shots, the second shot about 0.4 seconds slower than the first. It is really difficult for a simple musket to hurt Sunderland. Sunderland instinctively and quickly dodged the first bullet, and then Sunderland's pupils shrank suddenly, and the secret passage was bad, and the second bullet had hit his pitch-black brain door firmly, although there was a domineering timely defense, but it was inevitable to be shocked to the head by the impact of the bullet. After firing the first shot, Usopp predicted Sunderland's next position according to the small direction of movement of Sunderland's shoulders and hips, and calculated that the time of the second bullet would be just stuck, and Sunderland's defenseless stiffness in mid-air movement. Sure enough, Sunderland paid a little price for his carelessness, and the shock of the bullet instantly made his eyes black, and the black time was not long, just like the time when ordinary people blinked, but for masters, this moment can already be fatal. And Usopp is waiting for a black in front of him. The wind in his hand instantly shot out. Usopp did not entangle domineering. The black lightning is not fully controlled, and secondly, yesterday saw the violent power. Usopp was also afraid of really hurting Sunderland. All in one order, flash. Cycle 3 times. The sword in his hand quickly shrouded the dead end of Sunderland's body, and the direction of Usopp's attack was all some parts that were difficult for Sunderland to defend in his current posture, the achievement of yoga, and the development of gunfighting techniques, so that Usopp had an extremely deep study and understanding of human posture, and the carelessness of this moment made Sunderland now fall into an extremely passive situation. Smooth combos, increasing strength, and tricky angles all make Sunderland exhausted and difficult to deal with. After all, he is not a speed type, and the black guns that come from time to time in various dead corners also make Sunderland's defense a little exhausted. Sunderland's strength is very strong, and it can easily break the upper limit of Usopp's strength, but the problem now is that Usopp does not give Sunderland a posture of concentrated strength. The pose cannot be posed, the move cannot be made, and the force naturally cannot be sent. If you forcibly break the game against the attack, it is not impossible. But Usopp's sword is not domineering. Sunderland has already used domineering defense. If he still uses domineering force to break through the old face or not, so this is very embarrassing, either always being cut, being shot with black guns, or forcibly breaking the game. But even if it is forcibly broken, Sunderland also knows in his heart that as long as he does not forcefully end the ability to interrupt Usopp's current moves, then he will soon return to the current situation and be beaten. Usopp is really a good black gun. In terms of shooting, Sunderland is now a real suit. All kinds of prejudgment of position abuse Sunderland do not want, as if Usopp all angles around the body, he can attack in any posture. The change of ammunition is also smooth, the barrage and do not want money. Sunderland has been shot several times now, and if Usopp hadn't deliberately left his hand, it is estimated that he would have been injured under the gun. It's hard to imagine that a domineering master will be wounded by a gunshot. It's also a bit of last face. Combat wisdom Sunderland is actually a lot worse. After all, Lao Sang is not a full-time combatant, so the only way he can think of now, the way to break the game is a word drag until Usopp is exhausted and wins, although it is a little victorious. Sunderland, who is not as fast as Usopp, is also a little helpless, and now he knows that his front wave is really going to be slapped on the beach by this junior. But Usopp's trick is indeed a bit of a trick. The blow is like a flowing cloud. The attack distance is unpredictable with the cooperation of the musket. The attack will be superimposed. You can't run if you want to. You can't fight. You can only prevent, beaten. This is also too bullying blacksmiths. Ding dong, Usopp sighed. The feeling of fighting is really fucking exciting. Unexpectedly, in addition to the mouth of Lao Tai, your work is not bad, a little master's demeanor, but the speed is a little slower. It is estimated that Lao Tai is letting me here. Let me give full play to my strength. My physical strength has bottomed out. People have not broken the defense. It is really unfathomable. Usopp stopped gasping a few minutes later and stood 2 meters across from Sunderland. Don't fight. Don't fight. It's so meaty. HMPH. The boy knows that the sky is high and the earth is thick, Sunderland said weakly. But your boy's current strength, Donghai can't do much of you. Yes. Practice by yourself in the future. I don't have anything to guide you. It's not early. Your aunt is still waiting for me. Let's go first. No matter how special the guidance is, it will show timidity, so quickly withdraw. Usopp is too physically exerted. The internal breathing cannot keep up with the rhythm of the cycle and automatically cuts back to the outer breathing. The panting Usopp is now in a sunny day in the bottom of his heart. It turns out that I am also a little strong. Tomorrow to see when the owner of the house will come back. If you can't come back in the short term, go first to harvest the fruit. It can also be regarded as a matter of conversation. In addition to normal cultivation in the past few days, the swollen Usopp also went to have a friendly exchange with the ruthless eldest cousin, and by the way, asked about the route of Churzi town. The fruit is still early to get it early and feel at ease. The eldest cousin was not very willing to take Usopp at first, with an impatient look of death, but he met Uso who was a little bursting with self-confidence. Now the first half is basically invincible. What else? Of course, it's just positive. Just looking for stubble to avenge the deception. It's so fucking cool. Sure enough, recklessness is the right way to open the pirate world, the first choice of the king's way. This is the pirate, speaking with his fists, painfully. It seems that Usopp are also going to walk, crush the game, invincible flow of painting style. When the time comes, get the slippery fruit, develop some concept flow ability, and give you a collective thought slippery slope. Who else can expand more than me? Science does not exist, Usopp snorted proudly. After being brutally repaired, the fierce cousin suddenly awakened the dogleg attribute, saying that he was really blind to his dog eyes when he offended such a jealous talent as Master Usopp with his fishmonger cousin before. After inquiring carefully with the eldest cousin, I learned that the caravan was going in the direction of the Great Voyage, and if it arrived in the town of Shurs, it would have to wait for the caravan's return route, but the caravan had been leaving for almost 2 months, and it was logical that it should be back soon, and Usopp asked the eldest cousin and other merchant ships to inform him that he was going to go to the town of Shurs to do something. No problem, big brother. This little thing is wrapped up in the little brother. You will be my own big brother in the future. Little brother is your own dog's leg. The eldest cousin's chest slapped loudly. Usopp was stunned to see that his originally cold and fierce cousin looked like a mean dogleg. Wizards. More professional than Lao Tzu's dog-legged appearance, but salt and sweet, as this called talent? Can't compare. Can't compare. The eldest cousin's attribute point is a bit biased. Looking at the former king in front of him, bowing his head in front of him, Usopp couldn't help but feel a stir in his heart, and the buff of the sage time was almost lost. This feels like when you were in school, beating your own little fat man to crying daddy and calling her mother, and then the other party not only did not shake people to retaliate, but was beaten by your heart, but also worshipped you as a big brother. Isn't this Nima a template for Xie Wendong's rise? This is how the signs of underworld forces have risen? Is this the pleasure that strength brings? Usopp looked at his palms and tried to clench his fists. No wonder the Axe King Monka can be so arrogant. No wonder people with a little strength in the pirate world are so flying. It turns out that this is the sequelae brought about by the improvement of strength, but the state of mind is not enough. Or is it just that most people end up replacing their dreams with desire? Usopp didn't know, but Usopp, who had been meditating for a long time, could clearly feel that a trace of temptation from power, a trace of desire brought vanity, gradually wrapped around his heart. This is a kind of right that cannot be brought in the previous life. No matter how big your rights are in the previous life, you are just an ordinary person. You are the big brother of the underworld. You can fight. You can also use people to kill you. You are the boss of the company, and your subordinates can also not serve you and seek another job. You are an important member of the government. There is also a mass society supervising you, and there are laws hanging above your head, so that you cannot act recklessly. Even if you are the head of state, you face countless restrictions and restrictions. And every ordinary person at least has the ability to exchange with anyone, and if it's a big deal, he won't change with you. And here, the world of pirates, this is an unscrupulous right. You can really decide the fate of a person, and his life and death. A strong enough person in this world, except for the morality in the heart, is almost unrestrained. That is, like a wandering humanoid nuclear bomb. The appearance of the devil fruit aggravates the situation. And the transformation of the eldest cousin really gave Usopp such an experience. The impact of this experience on Usopp was unprecedented and shocking. He never imagined that one day he could use such a right too. Usopp began to just want to settle down in this dangerous world, honestly be an excellent assistant, follow the group to the end, earn some money by the way to marry the Koya sister, or other girls, and then live a good retirement life, and the matter of fighting fate will be handed over, Redhead, Dorag, Luffy, Solon and other big hands. But the eldest cousin brought a different choice to Usopp. I am already a sword master, why can't I also become a land overlord? Why can't I hug left and right? Why should I be a trash fish that follows others? Once the fire of desire is ignited, it can easily become a fire. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. Alas. The state of mind is still not enough. Maybe this is the red dust refining heart. This is the true meaning. If people have strength, they can act recklessly, but they are just puppets of desire again. That's it. That's it. It has nothing to do with strength. There should still be a bottom line as a person, and if you should not have strength, you will lose the bottom line and lose your self-restraint, and the power that is constrained is the power that truly belongs to you. In this life, what I want is to live a life without regrets, a life of freedom and ease, but not to become a puppet of desire again. Usopp frowned, looked down in thought, and finally sighed deeply. Once the hero drew his sword, it was another 10 years of calamity. In the end, a faint realization dispelled the flame of desire in his heart. The eldest cousin was made to tremble in his heart by Usopp's sudden silence, and the companion is like a companion tiger, which sentence did we make the new eldest brother unhappy? However, the eldest cousin did not dare to disturb the new eldest brother's musings. Half a day. I'm leaving. The merchant ship arranged to go to the woods to the north to find me, where I now live. Usopp waved his hand to his eldest cousin, signaling that he could quit the group. What to do? Big brother, go well. The eldest cousin snapped a standard, Korean-style little brother gift. Usopp's brain is black. My state of mind really can't bear this crazy respect. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. All things rise from dust, and so does the state of mind, and the spiritual cultivation allows Usopp to clearly feel the subtle changes in his every thought. Recognizing oneself, expelling distractions, and re-strengthening his faith, Usopp's spiritual realm rose sharply by a small amount. The benefits of spiritual improvement are self-evident. Usopp feels that the normalization process of true sage time is getting closer and closer, and this upgrade has also reduced the casting guidance time of true sage time by more than 90%, and now Usopp feels that he can quickly hang up the buff as long as he concentrates for a moment. The strength has improved a little rapidly. Could it be that my protagonist's aura began to burn? Usopp muttered in his heart. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. Since the last time he competed with the weapon master, Usopp went home and sorted out his fighting style, focusing on domineering, strengthening and control, as well as electrotherapy. A three-pronged approach. The domineering cultivation of the pirate world is very simple. When it reaches the level, it will be entangled, and if it continues to deepen, it will be covered, and it can be released when it is stronger, producing skills such as flowing cherry blossoms, and then it is enough to increase the domineering intensity endlessly. It is not mysterious, mainly the manipulation of spiritual power, but the only thing that puzzles Usopp is how to predict the future, and this skill has somewhat touched the blind spot of Usopp's knowledge. From relativistic analysis to quantum mechanics, from thermodynamic analysis to chaos principle, Usopp can't figure out what kind of operation method can make people meet the future, and completely do not follow the scientific development route. It seems that the eldest prince can also briefly predict the future of the first shot after the battle with Kaeri in the later stage. Could it be that the second prince is all by will? It's kind of idealistic. Usopp uses spiritual power, essence, and initial domineering energy in the body as raw materials. The domineering ratio was systematically tested, and the best match of the three-color domineering was obtained, but it was difficult for Usopp, who did not open the time of the true sage, to attract domineering, so he recently practiced when he was meditating. After triggering the domineering, cooperate with Thunder Fury and Wind Chasing Master to open the electrotherapy mode. How to say? It is a comfortable, sparks and lightning all the way, and the curly hair at one end is pulled straight, although the pain is quite painful, but the strength of the flesh is so pleasantly improved. Endure it. The feeling of opening and hanging also made Wu's whole person a little floating. However, although electrotherapy has made rapid progress in the flesh, Usopp still did not give up basic training, basic body exercises, basic sword-wielding exercises, and advanced yoga training. Electrotherapy is only an aid, and Usopp believes that if there is not enough muscle memory and practice for combat movements, then the strengthened body is just a dead piece of meat, and only by recognizing the essence of electrotherapy can we improve the efficiency of practice more effectively. Usopp has cut his hair into board sizes since he turned on the electrotherapy mode, because he really can't stand the explosive head after electrotherapy. Hard. However, after shaving his head, it seems that Usopp's whole person has become much sharper, with a streamlined tendon meat, not to mention that there is really a little bit of Peng Yuan feeling in Sibro village, and the nose is really straight. Sure enough, there are no ugly men, only lazy men. Domineering training to this part, for the people in the pirate world in addition to increasing the intensity, basically has reached the top. Put on the armed color immediately as a humanoid Iron Man, what else to pursue? But Usopp was not satisfied with this, and he wanted to make a domineering spiral pill to scare a wave of Kaido. Usopp, whose thinking was in a bottleneck, suddenly flashed his light, making him think about not to catch it. It seems that the training of the ability to read in the hunter can be combined into domineering. After all, now the domineering can generate electricity, isn't it? What else is impossible? As soon as this train of thought opened, Usopp suddenly thought like a wellspring. Nyen. A technique in the hunter world to freely manipulate the life energy emitted from the body. Nyen ability 4 major lines, entanglement, absolute, practice, hair. Usopp feels like another version of domineering, entanglement. Stabilize the airflow to increase the attack strength of the winding part, and its own defense. Isn't this girl armed color? It's just that the ability to read is more like a cultivation method of internal force, and from the perspective of idealism, it is more idealistic than domineering. But if you remove those inappropriate understandings, can the exercise of the ability to think in hunters also be applied to domineering? These projects can be considered and tried. Break 1,000 stones with 1 stone in a day. Use domineering to make numbers from 1 to 9 in 5 seconds. Condense a bully balloon with your fingertips and shoot it out. Float with your hands, your body does not move, and you release a domineering aura that flows cherry blossoms to make your body float. To be able to do these domineering operations, it should be a bit of a room. Usopp sat on the ground and slowly whispered. Usopp climbed desperately towards the peak, step by step, but climbed a mountain, saw that there was a higher mountain over there, and climbed towards the higher peak. The strength accumulated with countless boring hours is only to show in certain moments, just to emit the most brilliant and dazzling brilliance at a certain moment. Gusts of sea breeze with the unique freshness and humidity of the sea, rushing head-on, slightly salty waves hit the side of the ship from time to time, by the way splashed a little on Usopp's face. At this time Usopp's heart tide is a little inexplicably surging. In the past life and this life has never sailed on a sea ship. I don't know what the cruise ship feels like, but the experience of this motley merchant ship is really a lying groove. Standing at the bow of the boat at this moment, Usopp suddenly understood why Luffy liked the position of the bow so much, facing the sea. Just like the human heart facing the infinite distance, its vastness, tranquility, turbulence is like the road that life must walk. Usopp was facing the sea breeze at this time, originally thought that he might encounter some pirates who did not open his eyes. And by the way, he opened the meat for the wind and the new gun in his hand, but he waited for a long time and did not appear, and finally asked his eldest cousin to know that the big boss of the caravan had already passed on this route. Even if there were pirates, as long as he saw the banner of the caravan, he would not come to rob. There were people behind him, no wonder he was so arrogant. The big boss was also a stable person. Without the appearance of pirates, Usopp can only fantasize in his mind about the future and the scene of PK with all kinds of big hands, 1 person and 1 horse, and there is a moment when I am invincible. At this moment, in his mind, he is Chen Dong, he is Xiao Yan, he is Usopp Chuishui. His eyes will shake the opponent's liver and gallbladder, and the long sword will roll up a handful of robbery ashes with a light sweep. Thinking of the intensity, Usopp's heart became more and more surging. A black thunder flashed from time to time. Electrotherapy has become another permanent buff after the time of the true sage. Usopp can already maintain the state of electrotherapy in normalization. The good thing is that Usopp's physical body is getting stronger all the time. Of course, there are not so good places that the amount of food has increased by leaps and bounds. Usopp, who has been stimulated by electrotherapy during this time, is a little accustomed to the pain and numbness brought by this activation domineering, and somehow feels a little unusually cool. In the research and development of domineering spiral pills, Usopp also has a clue. Of course, the main breakthrough is still in the domineering activation. This period of electrotherapy plus in-depth research on the wind-chasing domineering transformation system. It also taught Usopp how to simulate the activation of domineering through mind control. Although the simulated activation domineering chi is not as strong as the wind transformation, it is more than enough for cultivation. If used for PK, the attack power is very strong, but the stability is still a few small meanings. Usopp enthusiastically named it Electrotherapy 2.0, which means to bring peace to the world. This is a good sign, because throughout the setting of the comics, the domineering in the pirates is too stable, covering the surface of the object, improving the hardness and attack power of the object, but more for the purpose of dealing with a variety of tricks, inexplicable abilities, flowing cherry and other external skills are only similar to fighting bulls across the mountain, and the output mode is more like the meaning of physical damage mixed with real damage. And the activated domineering is a bit of a sense of magic side output. In Usopp's mind, this is a subversive leap, not just a simple activation, but a great step from physics to magic. It's like Maxwell discovered electromagnetic fields, Einstein created relativity, and Heisenberg created quantum mechanics. Can you take a break, stop bragging, and be shoulder to shoulder with the sun? Can you die without bragging? Just ask if you can die. You have a brain hole, why flow? Why do you align with those real gods of others, and the X number in your heart has swelled into this? Can't tell the difference between reality? Due to the large increase in the time of the true sage to reason, Usopp successfully withdrew from the illusion of the Forbidden Peak, and also successfully allowed Usopp to find the X number in the snack. Usopp, whose X value dropped to a normal level, began to think rationally about the domineering follow-up gameplay, and kept smashing stones in his hands. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. Big brother, big brother. Lunch is ready. Are you eating here, or eat in the cabin? The eldest cousin asked in a low tentative voice, interrupting Usopp's thoughts, and the warm and thoughtful service gave Usopp a sense of home. The eldest cousin, who has been with Usopp for a while, has gradually changed his feelings for Usopp from the original fear to the current admiration and respect. During this time, the eldest cousin has fully witnessed Usopp's way of becoming stronger and Usopp's cruelty to himself, and he has also seen it in his eyes and obeyed it in his heart. Usopp's strictness and self-discipline made his eldest cousin admire in his heart, and the child who was almost scared by him in the past has now become a qualified and strong man. Worshipping the strong is a common human disease, and so is the eldest cousin, who now genuinely wants to be Usopp's younger brother. The eldest cousin used to have his own ambitions and dreams, but now he can only be a trash fish, and his life is muddy. Unwilling? Maybe. Let's eat out. The smell in the cabin, which Usopp had fully understood in the morning, mixed with the sweat, feet, and rotten salted fish smell of dozens of big men who did not bathe for many years, it was really too delicious. Defeated, can't enjoy, and don't know how the people on this ship survived. It seems that when building the melee in the future, you have to make a separate room for yourself. Ventilation is also very important. Otherwise, accompanied by the salty fish taste of the adventure, Usopp does not want to participate. Think about it. Usopp also gradually adapted to the enthusiasm and wild waves of his eldest cousin. Eating the love bento prepared by his enthusiastic little brother, Usopp began to carefully recall the plot. The main purpose of following the merchant ship to sea this time is to find the traces of slippery fruits, and the approximate location of Usopp also guessed in his heart. It should be that Arita was flown by Luffy to fly the nearby island, but this neighborhood is not easy to accurately locate, can only search slowly. The stability of the time of the true sage plus the resident buff Electrotherapy 2.0. The practice can also be carried out anytime and anywhere. Usopp also got a chart of the vicinity of the town of Shurs from the big boss. Of course, the process of obtaining the chart was not so pleasant, and the big boss's impression of Usopp was still stuck in the bleak night of that weak boy. Alas, it is too discordant to make people turn the small intestine. If you don't do something, you won't be comfortable. When Usopp fully had a harmonious socialist exchange with the big boss said that he had not felt the brilliance of socialism earlier, and he couldn't help but feel sad from it, leaving a lot of tears of regret, and now he is still crying alone in the cabin, and he can't be persuaded. Alas, still too kind. Usopp sighed as he sat at the bow of the boat. Ideographic period. The distance between the town of Shurs and the village of West Bro is not very far, and it starts in the morning and arrives in the afternoon, as if following up the city. Usopp took his equipment, rented a small boat at the nearby pier, replenished his supplies, and prepared to set off. According to the chart, ready to first touch the wave in the order of the islands on the chart. What if you're lucky? The eldest cousin also followed with a dead face, fiercely showing loyalty. Said that he recognized his big brother in this life. Balabalas. Usopp thought about it. Two people are also convenient to do things, and going to sea in the afternoon is originally a dangerous thing. Two people can take care of each other. In fact, the main thing is that Usopp will not sail. The closer he got to the fruit, the harder it was for Usopp to calm his mind. Excited. Superpowers, I believe that every native of the earth wants to have. Lying on the small boat, the eldest cousin worked hard to operate the direction of the ship. Usopp has always been very confused. I don't know how those seniors did it, either on the dry frame or on the way to dry fighting. In reality, the calm East China Sea, it seems that there really are not so many fights to fight. Take the initiative to find fishmen to do a shot. Usopp also thought about it, but he was afraid of affecting the plot trend. In case Nami had some accidents, then the boatman said that it would hang up. And there are still 4 to 5 years before the arrival of the eldest prince, because the big butler has not yet gone online, so Usopp estimated that the time is almost 4 to 5 years. So now honest cultivation and upgrading is true. Domineering also has control skills are also remarkable. The rest is to increase the strength. In the development point of hanging the wall moves on the line. In recent years it is best to strive to develop the fruit to awakening. After getting on the boat to walk an invincible stream, isn't it fragrant? And less beating is king. The weather at sea is really unpredictable. 1 minute is still smiling. The next minute it becomes violent and turbulent. The sudden rainstorm makes the Usopp and the two of them a little busy, and the friendship boat is a little bit of a strong trend of turning over without saying a word. Before the words fell, a huge wave came, and before the boat had time to collect the sails, with the huge wave was a 180-degree Thomas giant slalom, and the two were thrown out before they could react. Usopp woke up to find himself lying on a strange beach, and there were still a lot of shipwrecks scattered around him, which was a familiar scene. Isn't it special to wear it again? After resting for a while, Usopp, who was a little sober, realized that he had just encountered a shipwreck, and breathed a long sigh of relief. Fortunately this time did not hang up inexplicably. He would remember last night's Thomas slalom. Usopp was still a little stunned. Too exciting. The power of the sea was really powerless and difficult to resist. The large number of wreckage around made Usopp clearly realize that he seemed to be trapped on a desert island again, and survived in the wilderness. This place is obviously a shipwreck concentration camp. The big boss didn't tell the truth. How can I not know this place where boats are easy to capsize? Nama chicken. This old Yin X dared to slap me. When Lao Su went back, the education was still lighter. Look around. Eh? Man on the ground? Usopp rubbed his eyes vigorously, refixed his gaze. I'll go. Usopp then discovered that this figure seemed to be a big cousin. The small posture is quite chic. Half of his body is stuck in the sand, and his legs are straight to the sky. Dying cousin. Don't be emotional, come and save Lao Su, bastard. Ouch. It's quite deep buried, and I don't know if it's hung up. Heaven has the virtue of a good life. Peace to you. Thanksgiving. Family. Usopp, who soaked in the sea for a night plus didn't eat much, and his body was a little weak, and it took half a day of strength to pull out his eldest cousin. What does the texture of this radish mean? Poked his nose, very weak, but fortunately alive. Life is tough. Usopp made a pertinent conclusion. Normally it should be the rhythm of men and women kissing. Belch. Mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. But looking at the big cousin with a fleshy face is really a little unbelievable. Forehead. Let's have some home remedies first. Home remedies to cure serious diseases. Usopp, who can't get off his mouth, decides to use his fist instead. Fate will favor your big cousin, thanks. Usopp used all his strength at the moment, and hit the big cousin's stomach with a strong punch. The big cousin sat up with a sharp bow. His eyes bulged and almost fell out of his eye sockets, tightly holding this large mouthful of turbid seawater, mixed with a little blood clot sprayed out of the big cousin's mouth. Look at it. Let's say that home remedies cure serious diseases. Ha 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 ha. Usopp smiled with a weak heart, and quickly slapped his eldest cousin's unawake head with his palm a few times. The eldest cousin just sat there without reacting, looking confused. What's the situation? It seems that the eldest brother saved me just now. But how is my big head buzzing? It seems that I also broke a few ribs, and the perennial fighting gave my eldest cousin enough experience to understand the current situation. After resting for a while, the eldest cousin, who was a little sober in his brain, found that it was still difficult to catch up, thanks to the eldest brother. Thanks. Family. It's all brothers who are planning to do it. If you call me big brother, then I am your dear big brother. Can you still see death and not save your big brother, or is it a person? Look at the eldest cousin, it's not sober. Feeling as if he had been confused, Usopp wiped the sweat on his head. Take a break, and then we'll see what resources are available nearby. Now collect it, you can spend the next few days here. The survival experience of a day in the wild gave Usopp full theoretical guidance. Thought you might have to spend a few days on this island. Usopp tried to even out his breath, but hunger and dizziness made it difficult for him to concentrate. The buff can't hang up makes Usopp a little uncomfortable, and the various buffs can't be released on himself. Usopp touched his waist, fine. The sword was not lost. Otherwise, you will really cry to death. The two people rested for a while and began to collect supplies along the coastline. I have to say that the physical fitness of the people in the pirates is good, and it won't be long before the seriously injured eldest cousin can work in the field. You can be a person. It's not you who beat people yet. Looking at Usopp being beaten all the way in the original book, I don't know how many times the whole body crushed bones. I have already entered the ICU in my previous life, and I can prepare for the aftermath. But people Usopp can jump alive in a few days afterwards, and Luffy's teeth are beaten up and can grow by drinking milk. There is really no word for this calcium supplement. I don't know if there is fairy chi in the pirate world, or because the food in the pirate world is rich in nutrients. In short, everyone's ability to resist beatings is very strong, and Usopp is one of the best. Dragging their tired bodies, the two began to bring the supplies they found along the shore to a dry cliff on the shore, which was somewhat concave and a good haven at night. Looking at the land chosen, this is called professional. Because of physical exhaustion, the two of them searched for some necessities, except for the supplies scattered on their own ship, and did not find anything of value in the other wreckage nearby. Fortunately, the thunder is in hand, it is not troublesome to make a fire, and there is no need to learn primitive people to drill wood for fire, make a fire to dry clothes, and drink some fish soup, which makes Usopp and the two feel a lot more comfortable. With food to charge, Usopp's physical strength recovered quickly, his body was comfortable, his spirit became much easier, all kinds of buffs were hung up, his inner breathing was turned on, and Usopp's whole person entered a virtuous recovery cycle. A few hours later, Usopp was full of blood, ready to prepare for something while it was not dark. This small island is not big, you can see the head at a glance. Usopp estimates that it is a small island with a radius of more than 2,000 meters. There is a little vegetation on the island but not much. This bit of food and Usopp's fishing skills can last a long time. Really can't hold. Usopp can still open the valley is not. Poor cousin is estimated to really hang. As the old saying goes, saving someone's life is better than creating a 7th level floating slaughter. So Usopp is ready to see if there is a boat that can still be launched in the wreckage nearby. The small sailboat he rented has completely fallen apart. The parts on the ship are scattered everywhere, and the keel has been broken. It must be no drama. You have to lose money, you die. A lot of the barrel is intact, but he doesn't dare to sit in the barrel with the eldest prince. This trick is very strict on luck points, which makes Usopp a little unconfident. Originally, the eldest cousin also wanted to come up to help, and the eldest cousin insisted on the integrity of being a qualified younger brother. However, Usopp was also really weak-hearted, afraid that his eldest cousin's internal injuries would recur, so he let him rest well under the cliff, and then come to help when he was rested. Usopp's speed of inspection is very fast. The small boat is not necessary to look at because most of them have been fragmented, and several large ships look slightly more complete. Usopp is also disappointed after boarding. In addition to the bones in one place, the ship's wood is also soaked because it has not been maintained for a long time, and it will break a large piece when touched. The last one, if there is nothing to gain, go back to sleep first. See if tomorrow you can only tie the remaining planks to make a sampan back. Fortunately there are more ropes and sails are still intact. On the outside, the integrity of the ship is still relatively high. After Usopp entered the cabin, there was a little surprise. There was no leakage. It seems that the bottom of the ship is good, since you can still sail the people inside. Usopp left a little question mark in his heart, and when he walked to the cargo hold, he found that the original corpses were here, and through the light of the torches swaying, the picture revealed made Usopp suddenly clamp his legs. Hold steady, don't pee. He found that these corpses have long been devoid of flesh and blood, only dry bones remained, under the dim firelight, looking at the large pile of dry bones in front of him, saying that his heart was not abrupt that was nonsense, but looking at the scale of the ship, there was no pirate flag on the ship, and then carefully observed that the equipment on the ship looked more formal, and so on. Usopp believed that this was the merchant ship of some larger caravan, and here it seems that it was plundered and executed en masse by the enemy in the cabin. This boat should also be unmanned and float along the current. Finally stranded in this shipwreck camp. Because the environment was too mad, Usopp didn't dare to stay long, and quickly retreated, and Jianao was afraid of Sadako. I don't know how Luffy suddenly saw that Brook could still remain so calm. I can only say that the protagonist is Niu-Bu, rubber iron is simple, and his mind is full of rubber. Exiting the cabin, Usopp came to a more lavishly decorated cabin, although the traces of smashing and looting made the room dilapidated, but from some details you can see the luxury of this room, and the level of artistic appreciation of the literary committee is no joke. It looks like it should be the captain's room, and then it's handy. Usopp scanned the surroundings and pondered for a while. Pirates are a profession that does not require cultural background, except for a small number of intelligence-type leading brothers. Most pirates are also critics and melons with serious intellectual and cultural deficiencies. And a serious caravan captain is not a job that ordinary people can do, and deception, tax evasion and evasion are standard skills. It should also be supplemented by all kinds of unconscionable selection skills that are ruthless, the 6 relatives do not recognize, and the deception is concealed. If you look at the big boss, you can know that they are all illuminated like that by Usopp's socialist light, and they can also sneak into his waves, and the peeping leopard in the tube can be seen, which is really unfathomable. So to say that there is no small secret in the captain's room, I don't believe it when I killed Usopp. And most of the traces of smashing and looting are surface traces of rummaging and moving, and I haven't seen some small secret rooms, and the safe is exposed, so Usopp guesses that there may be the most precious legacy left by the old captain, but the question is where will the heritage be hidden? While it was not yet dark and the light in the captain's room was good, Usopp felt that he could use his rich escape room experience to make a wave of things. Ask yourself, if I were an old yin. Ahem. Old captain, where will I hide the treasure? Usopp quietly opened his dark side and pondered it carefully. Lead yourself into a cunning old, the captain thinks from his point of view. There are many people on board, and there is no monitoring, it is too unsafe. The captain's room is definitely the first choice, and the habit of entering and exiting to keep the door locked is not a big problem. Then the core must be in this room. Looking around except for a huge captain's table and some scattered less important documents, the basic principles of hiding things are either hidden in places that are not easy to attract attention, or hidden under everyone's noses, using people's inertia to make some articles. To summarize the 3 situations, one floor has a problem with a dark grid, the second wall has a problem with a dark grid, and the third table has a mezzanine dark grid. Let's explore the table first. Well, feel good, solid wood. Delicate pattern is more expensive. Smell has a special fragrance emitted by high-grade wood grease. Even in this environment, smell it is a little pleasant. High-end goods are undoubtedly, and I really want to move back to make a design desk. Or give it to Nami later. Drawing pictures on such a table, she must be bubbling with joy, and Robin, a scholar, should probably enjoy it, smelling it pleasantly. Want to hug your thighs before joining the group? What about the dignity of the strong? It's not important, and it's king to be able to deduct more pocket money in Nami's hands in the future. Usopp worked hard to dispel the straight white long legs in his mind. It was important to find something. What pocket money is not pocket money? Brother didn't think about the thighs at all. Rummaging through the drawers of the table, I touched it inside and out. There was no secret compartment. There was no mystery. It seemed that the captain is not an idle person. Usopp muttered secretly. The walls are surrounded by portraits of past captains, but because of the smashing and looting, most of the portraits have been hung upside down. Portrait. Usopp's spirit flashed. Others are flashing. How come I am a flash of light, for fear that I will not be able to catch it? Usopp carefully observed the portraits, with a strange atmosphere, but brought some different charm to these portraits, as if they were staring at Usopp and were about to pop out of the paintings in the next second. A little bit of what you see. Look at the smell of your earth, lingering in Usopp's heart. The pressure is a little big. The person in the painting seems to say, Lao Tzu's ship can also be touched by you. Get out of here. Chop, do you believe it or not? Little things like sea intestines. All kinds of scolding yin and yang words exploded in Usopp's mind. Can sea intestines be called small things? Usopp shook his head violently, looking back to see whether to draw or paint. Everything in his mind just now seemed to be an illusion. Am I still okay with this internal injury? Usopp is a little skeptical of life. After thinking about it, I didn't understand it. Forget it, it matters. Oh, a little interesting. Usopp suddenly found that in the case of most of the portraits are crooked. Only one swing is particularly positive and special. Peugeot. That must be a bit of a problem. Usopp hurriedly stepped forward to check. With the western tilt of the sun, the atmosphere here became more and more weird. The real sage time is a little bit cannot suppress the sense of horror in Usopp's heart. Usopp quickly activated the mighty dragon buff to enhance his guts. I saw Usopp inquiring while repeatedly meditating in his mouth. Carving insect skills, look at my mighty heavenly dragon, like Buddha's, like. Ma. Usopp tried to move the portrait. The portrait did not move. No wonder everyone else was crooked. It was still so prominent, there was a mechanism. Usopp groped for a long time on the painting, and found that the painting seemed to have a bit of a problem with the nose, as if it had been touched for a long time. Usopp's eyes lit up, there was a play. Usopp secretly rejoiced. I am such a secret room master. Lonely, really lonely as snow. Sure enough, after pressing the nose, the portrait automatically popped to the right, leaking out the huge lockbox behind. Right. Why the nose? Who is this illusion? Who does it say has a long nose? This world is discordant. Heavenly Tao. Are you challenging my bottom line? Usopp said angrily. Oh, second voice. So what? A contemptuous voice sounded in Usopp's heart. Yes. The small ones will change the bottom line. Dogleg mode is automatically on. HMPH. Ideographic period. The danger in his heart faded, and Usopp's attention returned to the safe, and the old-fashioned circlip structure was not difficult. See and smell the color open, penetrate scanning. Pull twice with your hand, and it's that simple to unlock the lock. If you see that it is used for gambling, it is really a bit of cheating, but it is a pity that as a young pioneer, Usopp was born only to be strict with himself. Alas, it's a pity for an art that comes quickly. The anti-rust technology of the old-fashioned safe is not very good. The cabinet has been rusted in a large area, and Usopp still wasted a little effort when it was opened. However, the moment he saw what was inside, he immediately plunged Usopp into ecstasy, and the first thing he saw was a pile full of gold and jewelry, and the startup capital was available. Looking up along the gold bricks, at the top of the gold, there are several logbooks, and a strangely shaped devil fruit comes into view. Based on the experience of previous lives, it can be concluded that it is definitely not the fruit of the animal line, but should be superhuman or elemental. Usopp touched it, almost didn't catch it and fell to the ground, lying in the groove. The skin is so smooth, and all kinds of detailed evidence are combined. Isn't this the slippery fruit that Lao Tzu has in mind? Didn't run. How? Day on the spot. Although I am 90% sure that it is the slippery fruit I want, I really can't get my mouth down when I eat it, not that I am afraid of the taste. After all, what was originally just a fantasy in the comics has now become a reality, and it is really a little difficult to accept. Usopp held the fruit and buried his head in meditation, as if there was no way back, and if there were some unexpected changes repeatedly, although the problem was not big for the time being, but the fruit was no small matter, and it was late to change. Based on the action principle of eating early, reassuring, eating early and enjoying early, and eliminating all moths. Finally, Usopp's heart crossed. Put on the last guard, open your mouth 40 yards and eat. Go you. Hiccup. Usopp swallowed the slippery fruit in one bite, or it may be because of the characteristics of the fruit. The smoothness is abnormally smooth and easy to swallow, and before Usopp bites the fruit and tastes the taste, it slipped into the stomach with a ton. Hiccup. Belch? Swallowing dates? Zubaji eats ginseng fruit? I haven't tasted this yet. Usopp was still a little stunned and a little confused after burping. Originally, I wanted to experience how unpalatable and sharp the devil fruit was, and challenge the unpalatable unfortunate that all generations of predecessors had expressed, and what kind of cruelty it had reached. What the hell is this sliding down? The only opportunity was so wasted. The ginseng fruit can also be eaten twice, and if this devil fruit is eaten twice, it is estimated that it will explode on the spot. Usopp's mentality is a little broken. What a thing. This special feeling is like opening a big group, has not hit anyone, the opposite spring is gone. It's the same as if your wife's foreplay is not over, your life is over. Life that should have had ups and downs suddenly became a pool of death, so tasteless. As soon as the time of the real sage opened, Usopp felt even more boring, or electrotherapy, and a little stimulation. Alas. Regretful. What a pity. The most characteristic snacks in the pirate world, I haven't tasted it. Usopp chirped and said dissatisfied. Usopp didn't dare to move after eating, and he kept waiting for the fruit to take effect, but after waiting for a while, it didn't seem to have changed. How? Expired. I haven't heard that the devil fruit can still expire. Did you just eat it with the skin, and the skin has not yet been digested? Huh. It makes some sense. Do you want to wait for digestion for a while? Never mind. Let's go out first, it's too heavy to make my heart a little hairy. Usopp rubbed his belly that was a little stretched and said to himself. Usopp turned his head, This safe? Lock it first. Let's see the situation tomorrow. The corpse in the cabin below will also have to be disposed of. Usopp naturally can't compare with the ninth uncle, and Dewey Tianlong is not very skilled in it. So it's better to wait for the day to solve it. In case the corpse is scared to death, it will be a loss, and it is hard to eat the fruit. Usopp is also a grateful person. He took fruits and treasures from others, and he should arrange the aftermath of others. People in society are righteous, and they can't errand. Disembarked. At this time, the sun has only a bright orange line, and at the end of the sea, it reflects a little wave. Far from the crowd on the isolated island, Usopp couldn't resist the excitement and joy in his heart at this time, especially wanted to find someone to share his current mood. It was best to drink some small beer together, grill some crayfish, and then drink drunkenly squatting on the road for a meal. The eldest cousin is a qualified little brother, but he cannot be an equal friend, and he can make friends but not talk to each other, because he is not on a spiritual level. Usopp carefully explored the depths of his memories, as if those beautiful and stupid memories were all when he didn't have much money. So what do you do when you have money? Usopp suddenly couldn't remember. Didn't his memory get better? Still don't want to think about it? But no matter what, I can't go back now, and friends who used to be like this have already drifted away one by one after work. Is it my fault? Or is it some other reason? Usopp was a little confused. Will Luffy become such a friend? Usopp didn't know, but he was looking forward to it, just a little scared in anticipation. I'm afraid that I won't do well. I'm afraid I'm the butterfly that flaps its wings. When looking at the original book, Usopp admired such a friendship, but now Usopp knows that he is no longer the original Usopp. Will the friendship be the same? Is the friendship that belongs to me, or the original Usopp's friendship? This is a philosophical question, and Usopp, who came from a science background, really can't figure it out. Smart people always like to drill into the toes. The sun set quickly in the middle of the night, and the dark blue twilight cloth between my thoughts has covered the entire heaven and earth, and the moon hangs in the sky with an elegant arc. Usopp suddenly sighed inexplicably. Looking up at the speckled starry sky, Usopp suddenly felt that everything around him seemed to have disappeared. Under the magnificent starry sky, he stood alone facing a huge mystery that human beings could not grasp, and this starry sky had long changed into something else in Usopp's eyes. Unconsciously, Usopp had returned to the bottom of the cliff, and his eldest cousin had not yet woken up, and Usopp stood quietly by the fire alone. Without any special operation, Usopp quietly entered a state of deep concentration. His thoughts gradually spread to the distance with the waves, and he silently joined in at the right time, and there was no place in the deep sea, sky, and island that did not exude Usopp's domineering. Usopp was like a light but elegant bystander at this time. His domineering air bumped in it with the waves, immersed deep enough and far enough, and then Usopp felt that the sea had a powerful vitality, vast and profound. This is the unique charm of the sea, and this charm deeply attracts Usopp's spirit to continue to indulge in it, and the domineering and crazy diffusion does not bring him any discomfort, but grows rapidly without Usopp noticing. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. Hey, Lie Groove. Handsome guy. Who are you? The sleeping eldest cousin's eyes widened, his hands covered his upper body, and he looked at Usopp with a look of horror. This terrified roar interrupted Usopp's elegant determination, and the diffuse domineering returned to Usopp's body in an instant. With a little settled afterglow, Usopp said lightly, I am your big brother. My eldest brother is as handsome as you. It's still my eldest brother. I'm still your uncle. Less deceiving people. When I'm stupid, believe it or not, I'll cut you. Looking at the IQ of the eldest cousin, it is obvious that he is not a good fool, but from the expression of the eldest cousin, it should be plastic surgery. Belch. The slippery fruit took effect. Another big step towards invincibility. Usopp looked down at his body leaking out of his clothes. He had just come out of the boat and had been wandering, plus he hadn't seen it carefully when it was dark, and now he was taking a closer look by the light of the bonfire. First of all, the skin, at least 20 levels whiter than the original. Compared with vampires, it seems to be no less, and the bronze color of the pure masters does not know if it can be sunburned back. Then there is the delicacy. The pores are almost invisible, and the original sporadic sweat hairs are also gone. The feel of the skin to the touch, how to say, soft and smooth, hard training for many days of tendon meat, but also seems to be melted. Usopp tried, the strength is still there, but the muscle line is missing. This soft and moderate skin to the touch, if placed on a woman, it is really superlative, but when placed on Usopp himself, it somewhat covers Usopp's master's breath. Looking back at the plastic surgery effect of Eureka, you can see this facelift. Belch. The power of the slippery fruit is comparable to opening a level 10 beauty plus 2000 yuan PS refinement package. Freckle scars. Inexistent. Looking down at the thighs is also the same, smooth and delicate straight Q elastic. This girl with pure skin can be ashamed of herself when she sees it, and it is estimated that the crown princess can still touch Usopp head on after eating the sweet fruit, but the smoothness is still better than Usopp. I took off my shoes and looked at the feet. The originally rough feet were now delicate like the baby's little face, and when I saw this, an ominous premonition suddenly descended on Usopp's heart. Don't. Usopp nervously pulled open his pants and looked in nervously. Nima. Fortunately, the gender is still alive, but the rest, this special meow's sacrifice is a bit big. Usopp wailed in his heart. Tough guy mode has not been opened for a few days. Is it about to take the road of small fresh meat? This made Usopp, who had just become Peng Yuyan of Zybro village, a little panicked. Not very good. The risk is too high. How did the ladies chirp with the big guy's front? Don't dare The risk of loss has increased by at least 200 percentage points. Although eating the slippery fruit brought Usopp a little trouble, but overall Usopp was still very satisfied. If plastic surgery is also a trouble, Arita, I'm willing to bear it for you. In fact, in Usopp's skill vision, this fruit is simply strong against the sky. Plastic surgery is just an addition. After awakening, Usopp can even guarantee injury-free clearance. Dodge added to max. Let you attack against the sky. Hey. If you can't fight, it's also for nothing. In the original book, he was eaten by Arita. In addition to the violent destruction of the heavenly things, Usopp guessed that it should be specially prepared by Oda Dagon in order to deliberately disgust Luffy. I don't know if it's for disgusting Luffy or disgusting readers. Anyway, after Usopp's rigorous analysis, it was found that in fact, the official match should be Eurita, but it is possible that Oda thought about the previous thinking in the back as a little inappropriate. To be the protagonist of the CP, Yarlita with the big prince grade is still a few small goals, so I made a fruit of the whole face, but after plastic surgery, I found that the coffee position was still not very suitable, so I simply gave up this role in the end. A serious nonsense, well-founded and very convincing. This is a blind analysis. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. After getting the fruit, Usopp is not ready to start developing the fruit now. First of all, the environment is not very allowed. Skill research and development still needs a quiet environment, and the barren mountains are not as safe as in their own home. The eldest cousin's side was also explained by Usopp's unremitting efforts, and finally believed this somewhat absurd little story, although there was still a lot of doubt in his eyes. But this island is so big, at a glance, he can't believe it. It's hard to be honest. Usopp sighed with emotion. If it weren't for a halo that would have a lying nose that would lengthen. As a qualified listed company sales director, Usopp has 100 ways to fool his eldest cousin with an IQ below the average to sell blood and kidneys to sell himself in 3 minutes. In the heart of the eldest cousin, this is like, finally followed a domineering underworld big brother, and then the eldest brother went out to buy a breakfast, and after coming back, the Thunder Gaba. Suddenly the big brother became the big sister, when who accepts it takes a little time. Although I didn't really become a big sister, I changed too much. White skin and beautiful long legs, that is, the chest muscles are a little smaller, but who cares? Is the standard equipment in the world good? The eldest cousin wiped his saliva. It was too. The secret treasure of the sea worth hundreds of millions of dollars is so casually let you slip around. The eldest cousin's little eyes were filled with great doubt. I don't believe it, unless I am asked to search my body and check it myself. Get out. You boy, you're tired of being crooked, aren't you? The brilliance of socialism is not shrouded enough, is it? Usopp's eyes were full of murderous aura that was thick to the substance, and this was definitely not the Usopp when he killed chickens in the village. After eating the fruit, Usopp's sense of security plummeted, a bit to see who was a guy. At this time, the emotional expression of the eldest cousin just touched the bottom line of Usopp's safety. My life is resting. Usopp's murderous aura was thick to the substance, stimulating his eldest cousin's nerves like a needle prick. Realizing the devastating consequences of his mouth high, and before he could open his mouth to beg for mercy, he could only think of this sentence in his heart. Wicked beast. Eat me a slap in the adugan. Oyster sauce root. Family bruggen. Ada. 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 Usopp staged a play for his eldest cousin, a one-man circle kick. 6 or 7 afterimages surrounded him with various raw kicks and kicks. The black tiger took out his heart, the monkey picked peaches, and specially greeted the big cousin. A companion is like a tiger. Death. After a night of education, the unrecognizable eldest cousin obviously recalibrated his positioning, and also expressed his strong identification with the new big brother. The eldest cousin who has reached the top of the intellect has accurately grasped the current situation. Just such a back and forth island can run. The so-called person who knows the time is Junji. The heroes of the world are nothing more than that. Sad, deplorable. The little brother has eyes that do not know Mount Tai. The eldest brother can obtain the devil fruit here. It is actually the auspicious Rui of heaven and the destiny of heaven. There will be a place for the eldest brother in the sea in the future, and you will be my own eldest brother in the future. I'm your own dogleg. The eldest cousin's slightly puffy face was filled with tears, and he prayed with joy and sincerity. Don't fight. You will really die if you fight again. The familiar words made Usopp's whole person surrounded by black lines. This buddy has a unified big brother speech template. Sure enough, education is lighter. But, look at my big brother Usopp, can you raise your noble hand and let him go? Although I don't know where Usopp brother offended you, my little brother's fault is borne by my little brother. The words changed, and the eldest cousin asked tentatively tremblingly. Wicked beast. Adieu, and Usopp was moved, and strong varicose veins began to appear on his forehead. Nima. If you say such a thing, don't shake your legs, okay? This is still a special meow of unbelief. Make it like a wrongful imprisonment with a beating. And where did you pop up this idiom, and a little déjà vu? After another friendly education from Usopp fluctuating fist, the eldest cousin, who was not in human form, made it clear that he really believed now, properly, without doubt, and was truly pleased. Alas. It would be good to let this harmonious and beautiful world be full of suspicion and violence, too discordant, sin. Usopp clasped his hands together, a sad face. The sun of birth shone on Usopp's handsome face. The extremely high reflectivity made Usopp's face glow with a faint white light. Looking at the big cousin who all this happened naturally, his heart was for a while, and he sincerely felt the warmth of this holy light. Come on. My friend, the light flickers you. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. Originally, Usopp was not very interested in appearance. After all, none of the economic bigwigs in the previous life lacked the pursuit of beautiful women. For men, appearance has always been a secondary option, and money power is the eternal theme. But Usopp thought about it. It seems that there is nothing wrong with becoming handsome. At least it can reduce the psychological defense of others. The muscles are not visible can also make people unable to estimate his strength from the appearance, and the vase can effectively reduce its own sense of threat, and it can also reduce its sense of existence in battle. As the saying goes, you were ugly and you die first. Too strong appearance can completely cover up a person's strength and connotation. It is easy for people to produce that this person is also good looking, and it must be based on appearance, but and other vulgar concepts. From another point of view, the truth that appearance is justice, Usopp believes that it applies in that world, and since ancient times, people have loved to yearn for beautiful things. Whether it is a political celebrity, entertainment star, or civilian grassroots, it seems that there are more opportunities for beauty. A scientific survey based on big data showed that people with good looks generally earn more than 30% more than average-looking people. In terms of bargaining for buying things, it also comes with discount buffs, affinity buffs. In short, there are many benefits. Restaurants with beautiful waiters will have more customers, beautiful female teachers will be more popular with students, and patients will be more satisfied with the service provided by beautiful nurses. Even Usopp once read an article describing a case, when two employees who joined at the same time, in terms of school background, workability, etc., if the company vacates a promotion channel, the opportunity will basically fall to the better-looking girl. And the reason is that in fact, the two girls are medium in appearance, but the one who was promoted likes to dress up more. Of course, there are many disadvantages, such as easy to be isolated, easy to cause others to covet, easy to trigger the jealousy and revenge of low-value people, in cults, and even beauty is equivalent to sacrifice, and so on. However, after several aspects of analysis, Usopp concluded that the overall effect of plastic surgery still has more benefits than disadvantages. It's just that Usopp still doesn't know his appearance, what kind of real level he is now, and whether he can meet head-on with the boss of the Three Sisters of the Nine Snake Island Cultural Troupe. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. In terms of fruit ability, Usopp controls it easily. I don't know if it is because he has already understood the ability of the fruit in his previous life, or if his mental improvement has led to a stronger control over various energies. In short, it is very easy to master the basic usage of slippery fruit, which is similar to the situation of Usopp just eating the burnt fruit, and can quickly adapt to the fruit ability. After becoming a slippery person, the friction on the surface of your body belongs to the passive opening skill, but you can actively close and adjust. and you can play slip and fall in the future. You cannot care about the terrain and weather. Of course, Usopp can also actively release the ability and control the friction coefficient of the object covered by the ability. There is a lot of room for maneuver. After being able to carry out simple control, Usopp did not rush to develop. The priority was to get out of trouble first, and it was only right to go home first. After all, his eldest cousin was now seriously injured and urgently needed to see a doctor. It's not you who beat me out. I'm not. Don't talk nonsense. Ideographic period, just make some breakfast. The eldest cousin's breakfast is still soup. After all, the seriously injured body cannot eat too greasy. Raise it first, and have to work to take care of the sick number. The hard life of the real lady. The scorching sun gradually hangs on the commanding heights of the sky. The scorching sun is in the sky, and the blazing sun is like fire, which is the time that can best show the brilliance of the vigorous life of the working people. Usopp, who was working happily, suddenly thought that the daytime position under the cliff last night did not seem to be very good, just to welcome this hot sun. Belch? Is it time? Do you want to go back and take a look? Walk. When Usopp returned to the bottom of the cliff, he found that his eldest cousin had been exposed to dried salted fish, and the scars on his face that showed that he didn't talk much were all smoked, and there was still a trace of blue smoke on his body. You're turning it over yourself. Usopp was furious. I have to be able to move. The powerless eldest cousin shouted silently in his heart. At this time, apart from lamenting that he met people and scolding the street in his heart, could he do anything else? Is this the end of life? The eldest cousin's heart was filled with despair, but the eldest cousin, who was almost salted dried fish, could not even shed a single tear of sadness at this time. Usopp, whose conscience was on the line, hurriedly dragged his eldest cousin to a shady place, and then poured half a bucket of water on him to dispel the fire, and finally saved his eldest cousin from the fate of salted dried fish. After saving his eldest cousin, Usopp continued to shout the trumpet to start, but Usopp did not feel very hot against the scorching sun, which may be caused by the fruit making the skin too smooth and making the reflectivity of light higher. Usopp didn't think about it, and first took advantage of the noontime when the sun was full to clean up the bone shelves in the cabin. This job is not difficult for the current Usopp. Find a larger sheet to pack. The power of the fruit is covered. The friction coefficient is adjusted to the minimum. Drag and go. Really do not work hard at all. However, how to deal with these bones after they came out put Usopp in a dilemma. Whether to bury at sea or cremated is a problem. The man of the sea should be buried at sea, but think about it from another angle. Have been at sea for half their lives. Will they continue to drift at sea after death? After deliberating for a long time, in the end, Usopp still chose to dig a pit and bury it, and the wood was still kept. In this resource-scarce land, it was too wasteful to refine people. Because the bones were all entangled, Usopp couldn't tell who this piece belonged to and whose piece it was, so he simply buried them all together and dealt with the old yin. Cough. After the captain and his crew, Usopp erected an unnamed tombstone in front of the tomb to pay his respects. Heroes don't ask for provenance, wealth should be the reason. All of you seniors have become a handful of dry bones, and I hope that you can put aside your past grievances and rest in peace on this undisturbed island. Usopp clasped his hands together and sincerely prayed that China has retained the greatest respect for the dead since ancient times. No matter what happened before death, it should be equal after death. As for right and wrong, feel at ease in the hearts of the people. The wind rises and the clouds fly, and the soul returns to the sea and home. A sudden gust of wind blew Usopp's horn hunting, and also blew up the scattered leaves near Usopp. The leaves flew with the wind, gradually drifted into the distance, and in a trance Usopp seemed to see everyone supporting each other and talking and laughing towards the sky, and the old captain looked back at him with a grateful smile. Seniors, go well. Usopp's domineering attitude seemed to sense something, turned his head to look at the sky, and solemnly bowed his hand in the direction of the wind. After dealing with the problems of the seniors, Usopp was relieved. Taking advantage of the fact that it was still early, Usopp cleaned up the entire ship, and I have to say that it is convenient to have fruits, and Usopp also sorted out a few slippery fruit home tips, recorded in the life chapter of his tactical book. The sails of this ship have not yet been damaged in large areas, and the sails of the rented boat can be replenished. Just do it, and this period of independent living and training, coupled with the luxury plan, has basically made Usopp's tailoring skills basically reach the full level. Usopp doesn't want to stay on this island all the time, not to mention himself. His eldest cousin also has to hurry up to see a doctor, doesn't he? Before dark, Usopp could be regarded as having renovated the ship inside and out, and all the supplies outside had been packed up on the ship, and the eldest cousin naturally could not forget, fed him some dinner casually, arranged a single room, and left himself on the bed. I have to say that the vitality of the eldest cousin is still remarkable, and such a toss has not yet been hung. Usopp himself is much more delicate, but I didn't expect that the vegetation of this island was quite complete. Picked some wild vegetables, twisted some lemon leaves, and made a cup of hot tea. Even eat a wave with big fish and meat. The fatigue of these days has also dissipated a lot with this hot cup of tea. Usopp lay on the bed, looking at the night outside through the window, sketching in his mind through the night, in the future, in the case of the Straw Hat Pirates at sea. Will he also encounter such a thing? Surely it won't be less, right? Thinking of the passion, wisps of electric light flashed through Usopp's body, and the wind around him also echoed twice. After watching for a while, Usopp felt that it was not interesting, and began to think about tomorrow's voyage, and the subsequent development of the fruit. Usopp is not in a hurry in terms of development. The old saying is good: if you want to do things well, you must first sharpen your tools, first familiarize yourself with the control of the fruit, and integrate into your own combat system, which is the main thing that should be paid attention to at this stage. However, in terms of fusion, Usopp is not entangled. In fact, he has already reserved his place for the fruit when he was initially trained and designed, but the problem is that the design of many of Usopp's abilities comes from his own YY and fantasy of the fruit, which is not realistic. So after getting the fruit, you must first be familiar with the ability and development direction of the fruit, and then remove the unrealistic parts of the original design, and re-fine-tune the skills. Usopp believes that the fruit awakening is actually not so much related to physical strength. After all, throughout the history of pirates, I have not seen that the big guy of the fruit awakening put a few skills and tired. Therefore, rational analysis shows that the awakening of the fruit has little to do with physical strength, mainly depends on the spirit and control and the understanding of the fruit, which must be delicate enough and original enough. This is like two students, one is learning God and the other is learning scum. The same problem. Learning God is done in minutes, and the scumbag writes homework to do papers, and even the unicorn arm is practiced but still can't do the same reason. So Usopp concluded that intelligence determines the upper limit of achievement. Physical strength determines durability. Come on a little bit. Let's go back and talk about it. I always feel unsteady outside. I always feel that there is something wrong with the people. There was no other light source in the window cabin except for the faint moonlight, and the cold atmosphere, coupled with the background of the large-scale death in the ship, made Usopp still a little faintly stunned in his heart, and could only mumble uncontrollably alone to dispel a little sense of horror in his heart, but he didn't know that his whispered broken thoughts made the atmosphere develop in a more strange direction. It was another sunny day, and the wind was crisp and perfect for sailing. Although the cabin at night was a little scary, but fortunately the sleep was quite comfortable, and the sleep of harmony made Usopp's whole person look full of vitality, and after doing some simple stretching movements, Usopp decided to go to see the situation of his eldest cousin first. Usopp slid and rushed to his eldest cousin's cabin. Groove? Usopp was shocked the moment he saw his big cousin, as this girl still the big cousin who was like a gossamer yesterday, walking on the edge of death, and about to be carried by death to rush his performance. Who is this special meow bouncing around? Picked up the devil fruit? Or is it recharged? Dude is not the reincarnation of cockroaches, right? No, isn't this guy trying to escape labor? Thinking of this, Usopp's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. Yo, hello big brother. Looking back at Usopp's dangerous eyes, the eldest cousin snorted violently, and immediately came to a standard Korean-style gift, showing the professional ethics and dedication of a professional junior. Are you okay? Isn't it possessed by a ghost? Usopp also had a little weakness in his dangerous eyes. I'm afraid it wasn't a return to the light. The monkey picking peaches was obviously all out yesterday. Alright, big brother. Yesterday, the little brother's brain was still a little unclear, but he ate enough and slept well, which made his body a lot better. Eat ma shong, and I have already thought clearly about the eldest brother problem. Although the eldest brother has eaten the fruit, his appearance has changed greatly, but he can still tell it if he looks closely, and now his appearance is very similar to the original appearance of the eldest brother. Thanksgiving, family, can be regarded as a belief. Seeing this big cousin whose IQ suddenly occupied the heights, Usopp accidentally shed tears of relief. But where did you inherit this mouthful of Tianjin pancake fruit? And I have to thank my eldest brother for saving my life and taking care of me all night. My relatives, you are my own eldest brother. In the depths, the eldest cousin's fierce face overflowed with moving tears. Don't take it to heart that the eldest brother should do, since it's okay. Hurry over to help. Get down and push the boat. Push it to the sea and we will sail home. I'm afraid that some of the modules that were beaten yesterday failed, right? Fortunately, the province explained, and Usopp immediately became justified when he thought of this. The two got off the boat and came to the bow of the boat. The eldest cousin looked down at his emaciated little arm with a confused look, and then looked up at the behemoth in front of him. The whole person is not a pole thick. How to push? Dry push. Big brother. It's not that I look down on the two of us, just our small body, with the strength to eat, can't push these 20 or 30 meters long ship into the sea, right? How much does this weigh? At least tens of tons. Lil brother, my arm strength is full of 500 pounds, which is a fraction. How to break the remaining tens of tons? The eldest cousin's confident words were full of tension, and Usopp seemed to see the third unknown side of the eldest cousin. There is a sense of déjà vu of seeing detective high school students who are poisoned and drugged. Usopp looked at his eldest cousin, Nima, with wide eyes. This rational thinking, flawless analysis. Took the wrong medicine, right? Yesterday gave ya the second pulse of Rendu. Intelligence suddenly +5. It's hard to say if this guy graduated from elementary school, and he can even do math. Ruthless. This is a ruthless person who can do math. Sure enough, human potential is really not to be underestimated. Small problem. Don't use 500 pounds, I'll push it in a while, you just start pushing. Don't use too much force, just a little bit. Hold steady. Small scenes, maintain the bosses pressing and reserved. Huh? A little bit? Great doubts stared at Usopp. The power of the devil fruit. Go back and explain it to you again, time is running out. Usopp said helplessly. Usopp began to calm down. All kinds of buffs hanged, concentrated began to guide the power of the fruit full of spread throughout the bottom of the ship. The first time such a large area of control fruit. Usopp also felt a little hard, but still within the control range. I don't know why Usopp felt that his domineering in spirit seemed to suddenly skyrocketed. The spirit probed the body. It seems that no problems were found, analyzed for a long time, should be caused by the fruit, right? Usopp speculated, and then shook his head. Forget it, in short, good things, don't be too entangled. Push. Controlling the fruit energy, Usopp turned his head and shouted at his eldest cousin. The eldest cousin is also doing this for the first time. A nervous completely forgot his new eldest brother's instructions just now, slammed a palm on the bow of the boat. In the big cousin's shocked gaze, the whole boat quietly slipped out tens of meters, landed on the sea behind the reef, and hit a few huge water drifts. After falling into the water, the boat did not stop, but continued to glide in the direction of force. Looking at the black dots in the distance, the two looked at each other speechlessly. Usopp had a black line on his face, the corners of his mouth twitched, and he silently scolded in his heart. Criticism. Suddenly realized what Usopp hurriedly retracted the magical power. Without the blessing of fruit strength, the merchant ship soon stopped, along the undulating up and down swaying. The undulating merchant ship seemed to be waving to the Usopp too, come to play uncle. What to do? Wait. After the two had lunch, they saw the merchant ship swaying and being pushed back to the shore by the waves. This lunch was the eldest cousin's chef, saying that as a younger brother these days, he also had to take care of his eldest brother, which was really a bit of a loss. Regardless of Usopp's obstruction, he had an iron heart to show his skills and repay the grace. How to say, the taste is not accurate, anyway, it is a little tooth. Usopp almost broke the front tooth. This is sent by Heaven Tao to curse me, right? In addition to the halo that makes my nose grow longer if I lie, what aura do I have on my body? After some rest, the two reboarded the merchant ship. The eldest cousin adjusted the angle of the sail. Usopp stood at the bow of the ship, slowly spread the power of the fruit back on the hull, reduced the friction coefficient of the hull to a minimum, and then the ship rushed out like an off-string arrow. Stimulate. It's too exciting. The first time to race a boat, Usopp stands on the cusp of the storm, galloping on this vast sea. A little breeze can make the hull get strong power. Otherwise it is still a little difficult for two people to drive away such a small and medium-sized merchant ship. In the future, it is estimated that no boat can catch up with the boat where Usopp is there, and it can slide out 10 miles with zero friction in a paddle. Just ask how to chase. If you are firing a cannon of wind, coupled with Usopp's ability, the zero friction speed does not decay. It is estimated that you can slide directly to the end of the pirate road. The only thing that limits it is Usopp's physical strength. However, there are also difficult to control, that is, slow down, but if Usopp can cover the entire ship with the ability, it is not afraid of collision. Rush and it's over. This is to take off in place. This phenomenon has completely exceeded the cognitive blind spot of the eldest cousin, or how to say that it is the secret treasure of the sea. Hundreds of millions are too worth, too special meow advanced. At the beginning, there was a little unbearable cousin, but after getting used to it, he produced a little strange stimulation and impulse, a slow motion with the left hand and the right hand, and a slow motion replay with the right hand and the left hand. With rhythm, the eldest cousin's rudder rode the clouds and flowing water, his hair fluttered with the fierce wind, and his ugly maniacal laughter was full of confidence and flying. This feels like stinky tofu and durian. The first acquaintance with the stench is unbearable, and when you get used to it, you fall in love with the stimulating taste. The speeding merchant ship took the two to gallop in the magnificent sea, the feeling of freedom and unrestrained, so that the two completely let themselves go. The direction is not important, the important thing is a cool. The experience of racing too painful, so that the two lost their minds and decided to sail blindly based on memory. Anyway, the chart was also lost, and it was not a big problem to follow the feeling. The speed of the boat was fast, and the wave was over. There is no traffic police, no deduction of points. Usopp and the two sail unscrupulously on this uninhabited sea, wantonly smelling the fragrance of freedom, the two of them at this moment to forget all their thoughts, leaving only the joy between heaven and earth. This is the charm of the sea. The sky is high and the birds are flying, and the sea is wide with fish jumping. Usopp stood at the bow of the ship with a hot passion like magma flowing through his cold face, and his open clothes hunted in the wind. The feeling of galloping freely and riding the wind and waves made Usopp feel an inexplicable pride in his chest, and he couldn't wait to draw his sword now and fight with peerless powerhouses such as Haki, General, and 4 Emperors. Passion and over-secretion of dopamine can make people obviously forget the X number in the heart, and the partner of speed has always been passion. Ah. Boss. It's so exciting, it's so exciting. I have never driven such a fast and cool boat in my life. Is this the power of demons? Bullbatch, to Bullbatch. Wow, eh. Huh. Brother, you are my brother. Please take the magical power. Looking at the drool like an electrocardiogram at the back of his eldest cousin's head, the corners of Usopp's mouth kept twitching, and the cold pressing frame was almost broken. Usopp quickly turned his head and didn't look at him, it was too spicy to see. Nima. How can an underworld macho man who is as cold as snow and does not blink his eyes when he cuts people, how can he be such a thing behind his back? Usopp, who had broken the skill, was not ready to continue to stand on the bow of the ship to load X, got off the bow, retracted the magical power, and the long-term use of the power of the fruit also made Usopp feel a little tired. The boat continued to glide at the same speed for a while, and then quickly dropped to normal speed. Boss. Why did the speed decrease? The eldest cousin, who was empty, wiped the afterglow from the corner of his mouth with his sleeve, and asked hesitantly. How? Not cool? Usopp asked expressionlessly. Huh. Want to finish? The eldest cousin suddenly felt that a capital letter was pasted on the door of his brain, and his intelligence was instantly full, and countless thoughts rolled in the heart of the eldest cousin. Not cool. Just 2 words turned into dozens of different levels of meaning in the heart of the eldest cousin. Deeply reflect on the little brother manual, how to be a qualified little brother, the code of conduct for the little brother. I was wrong. Eldest brother. Little brother was a little arrogant just now. The eldest cousin immediately recognized his problem, bowed his head and admitted his mistake, and had a sincere attitude. Ah. Okay. Usopp has a black line on his face, it's the first time he is a little tired with the fruit, plus the wind face is stiff. But if you want to play, you can play for a while. I want to ask him if he wants to play. Where does this guy want to go? Don't let the moth curse me. The little juju in Usopp's heart flashed a trace of foreboding. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. I don't know how to look at my eldest cousin's well-behaved appearance, and I really want to smoke him. Usopp dispelled the strange thoughts in his heart and prepared to go back to the cabin to eat something, so using the fruit was indeed quite physically exhausting, but these hours of use also made Usopp more familiar with the power of the fruit. After eating Heisei, I finally felt that I was alive. This time I have to give a thumbs up to Usopp's luck. The blind cat touching the blind direction like a dead rat really found the town of Shurs. It is estimated that the sincere prayer of the charter owner has been fulfilled. After docking, Usopp decided to go and lose the money for the chartered boat first, one day as a young pioneer, as a young member for the rest of his life, and the spiritual inheritance of honesty and responsibility cannot be lost. After carefully locking the safe, opening the mechanism, and carefully locking the door, Usopp disembarked with confidence. The two first came to the renter's house, just after saying that the boat was destroyed, and didn't wait for Usopp to say that he lost money. He was robbed by the old man who rented the boat, a stinky curse. The uncle's mouth work is also strong, even sprayed for half an hour. The water can't take a sip. What family heirloom ship is so gone? There are still 80 old mothers at home. a few children who need to be repaired, and the wife is still liver cancer, which makes people how to live in the future. All kinds of yin and yang words are turbulent, and they almost roll on the ground. Usopp, who was silently scolded, looked at the uncle with a variety of tricks and was amazed. Hanging on to the true sage time also made Usopp not angry or even waveless, and I don't know why he still wanted to laugh a little. The eldest cousin is very unhappy, a social person. The face is the biggest, and he is ready to go up on the spot to teach the old man a lesson, and put the skills that the eldest brother gave him to the old man. Frightened, Usopp quickly stopped him. Nima. Be a person. You tiger-backed bear, a black tiger smacks out the heart. This uncle is estimated to go to see the warring states. Can it not cause trouble for the navy? Lao Tzu doesn't want to be wanted now. The uncle is also an old immortal who sees and hears all directions, and seeing that the two of Usopp dare not make a move, they become more and more rampant. The sound of scolding mixed with crying is very graphic. Surrounded by a circle of lively townspeople, Usopp took a closer look and found that the people around him were either mocking, sympathetic, or ridiculing. Looking at this lineup, this déjà vu sense of picture? This is touching porcelain? It's kind of interesting. Usopp's current mood is a little difficult to describe, very complicated. Thinking of the process of forcibly touching the porcelain with the weapon master some time ago, looking at the person in front of him. I sigh that I am still too young and inexperienced, and my acting skills are not a star and a half. Usopp casually took out the small tactical book in his bag and began to record the words and deeds of the uncle one by one. The look of humbly seeking education really made the uncle's scalp numb. This Nima, you came to me to learn advanced porcelain touching technology experience? What's so strange about this? The onlookers were also covered with black lines, and they had never seen this kind of operation before. Ideographic period. Although I have seen it a lot on TV before, in reality, because Usopp never goes to the side of the road to help people indiscriminately, I never really encountered it, and I didn't expect that the first time I met Toucher in my life was in the pirate world. The world is wonderful, the sun smiled at me. When I was a child, I somehow slipped out of my mind, thinking about it, and somehow the more I thought about it, the more interesting it was. Puff. Ha 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 ha. Usopp couldn't help but laugh out loud, and the more he laughed, the more he couldn't control himself. Men's happiness is sometimes as simple as that. Do you have a lot of question marks? I don't know if the child has a big cousin anyway is now a lot of question marks. It is definitely not that simple. The eldest cousin's IQ began to overload, and he instantly analyzed the words and deeds of Usopp's eldest brother from 8 aspects. I also looked at the reactions of the people around me and the uncle. Sure enough, there was fraud, worthy of being the boss. The opposite way, the use of tactics is unfathomable, worthy of the man I fancy. Roll. Ideographic period. The people around looked confused. The old man lying on the ground was even more dumbfounded, and even a little self-doubtful. Why am I performing a comedy? Is it so festive? What does this laughter mean by joy? Scam me? Anti-routine. Uncle is a little confused about the market. The mentality is a bit broken. Hold steady, you can win. The uncle began to patrol around with his afterlight, and when he found a flat ground, he was about to lie down. Scold. The ultimate trick of touching porcelain routines is a trip to the trend. Something, sir. It seems that I have to have an old discussion with you in the professional field, and the reborn Usopp is obviously more than one notch stronger. Nima. There's no need to be competitive in this regard. Usopp saw an opportunity to lie down next to the uncle, and it was time to fight for quality. Whoever gets up first loses. The corner of the uncle's mouth twitched, and it was today. Straight to the bloody bayonet stage. Old man, hey, don't say it's quite a good face. As a tyrant in the porcelain world in Shur town, he will not meet an enemy in the coming year. If he is planted in the hands of a doll today, how will he still mix on the road in the future? In the future, lying on the ground, others will say, lose to a doll. What face will go out to work in the future? Fight it. What do you want if you touch porcelain? Each line has its own persistence and dignity. The uncle looked serious. Onlookers who did not know the truth looked at the two people lying on the ground. Little by little, move into the shadows. A person holding a small book does not know what to remember. Is there a disease? Is this not? Can't learn something well? Can't bring something positive to the already suffering pirate world? Gossip is the cornerstone of human survival, and the boring behavior of the two obviously touches the G-spot of the bored masses. 1 pass 10 10 pass 100. Usopp, a young player in the porcelain industry from his West Bro village, challenged the overlord of the porcelain industry in Shur town away to challenge the overlord of the porcelain industry in Shur town. and won the champion of porcelain for many consecutive times, and has never missed a boat charter for many years. In the end, it was the newcomer young general who rode the dust, and immediately cut the veteran under the horse. Or the charterer who is not old and tortures the young general. Please let us wait and see. This professional commentary, where did you call? It's open, it's open. Usopp pays 1.5, and the charterer loses 0.8. The eyes of the masses were still snowy, and the half-pulled body of the uncle had rubbed into the shadows, and the uncle under the shadows suddenly felt much cooler. I can still hold on. Let's teach young people a good lesson today. For glory. Usopp said that it doesn't matter that you can accompany the uncle to the wasteland. The true sage time hangs, the inner breath hangs, the slippery fruit sunscreen mode is on, the valley opening mode is on, the electrotherapy 3.0 is started, and the no lower limit mode is started. In addition to studying, Usopp did not forget to cultivate. Grasp both hands and be hard with both hands. Nima, you call this learning? Is it good to teach children? By the way, take the money from the ship, don't take too much, I'm afraid they can't afford to lose. Usopp, who suddenly seemed to think of something, turned his head and said to his eldest cousin. The eldest cousin nodded yes, turned his head and ran to the place where the ship stopped in the port. The boss is the cowbatch. All aspects are so professional, sure enough. There is still a lot to learn. The eldest cousin gestured as he ran, as if he was trying how to lie down. The port is not too far from here, and it takes only a few minutes for the eldest cousin's legs and feet to run back and forth. Soon the eldest cousin returned with a marijuana sack and threw it all at the gambling table to buy him according to Usopp's instructions. The banker's eyes straightened the moment he opened the bag. Nima was full of a bag of gold, and you are not afraid that you will not be able to get out of town alive? Not to mention a few 100 million, stimulating, too much. Nima stimulated, a small gamble to play so big? Why don't you dare to take it? Usopp asked lightly, as if he didn't put this bit of gold in his eyes at all. It felt like going out to meet an acquaintance. The other party asked you, did you eat it? You answered, just eaten. It's so casual. This sack of gold is no different from a bag of toilet paper in his eyes. Pick up. Why don't you take the money? The dealer braced his legs and stiffened his airway. Face matters. Received Usopp's gold for 800 million, which suddenly made Usopp's odds drop very badly. One loss of 1.5, down to one loss of 0.4. And the uncle's eyes were straight when he saw the bag of gold, which instantly inspired the little universe. Friend, and uncle will lie to you for the rest of his life. A fantasy that after getting so much money, he can retire, buy a big house, and drool after marrying a few more wives. Another humble learning book remembered flying, and from time to time a black arc flashed on his body. Usopp's porcelain PK has attracted many people to watch the battle, and the huge gambling game has also attracted a lot of black and evil forces, and the arc on Usopp's body flashes from time to time, which is to remind these people that they are not easy to mess with, so that these people are also weighing in their hearts whether they have the courage to work hard for money. More and more people are gambling, and Usopp's odds are gradually increasing, and small gamblings become big bets, which is a good sign. Rich in money, wishing you prosperity. Over time, it seems that the energy of the small universe is a little unable to be supplied. The ground is still quite hot after a day, and there are more and more people around, as if the whole world has recognized his true face, so that the uncle who has never experienced this kind of battle, usually up to the sky, there are more than a dozen people watching. Why is the situation suddenly out of control today? The uncle who couldn't figure it out, the pressure in his heart was increasing. A lot of cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Uncle, if you can't do it, just give up. Don't hang up for some money. Usopp turned his head to see that the uncle's sweat had already wet on the ground, and said with concern. Your uncle's lousy wants you to change even if he dies. Hearing Usopp's words, the uncle instantly exposed his anger, and the small universe exploded. I can't wait to hack Usopp to death with a knife on the spot, but think about touching porcelain is miserable. If you strike first, it doesn't happen to follow Usopp's wishes. Calm. I don't have a grandpa. Be careful with varicose veins, and don't get too excited in case of cerebral thrombosis. The wife is still a widow, and it is not worth it. It's not interesting for me to win like this. Usopp looked at the uncle's excited mental state and expressed great worry. The uncle pointed at Usopp with trembling anger and couldn't say a word, and the uncle who lost his mind trembled and stood up and was about to come up and hack Usopp to death, and fainted without taking 2 steps. Look at me and say it. Can't be too excited. This is so good that I almost hang. Seeing that uncle was defeated, Usopp stood up, dusted off his body, and put the small strategic book back in his bag. Are you the devil? Said the people around him in unison. Wonderful. Big Brother's psychological warfare play is pure and unfathomable. The eldest cousin fell into strange speculation about the eldest brother again. Usopp watched with a twitch in the corner of his eye. Never mind. Just be happy. Usopp carried his sack of gold, plus the 500 million Baileys he won, and walked happily to the port. The money is still hidden to be at ease. While walking, I suddenly thought of something. The spirit of the young pioneers could not be broken here in my Usopp. Usopp took out a suitably sized gold brick from the bag, turned it upside down. The black halo on his hand turned, and threw it out violently, smashing it on the open space next to the charterer. Boom. A violent tremor accompanied by a violent wind pressure suddenly shattered the greed of many people. Isn't it fragrant to be alive? A large pit with gold as the center appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Usopp's strength was well controlled, and the edge was right next to the uncle, who rolled along the edge of the pit to the center of the pit, and his body was covered with gold nuggets. This is for the uncle's ship and the cure. I want to know which of you dares to take it. Usopp's expressionless voice threatened, and this arrogant feeling made Usopp's eyes dark. The eldest husband should be like that. Looking at the money on his body, alas, so many small goals were achieved at once, and he was lonely as snow. Big Brother Cow Batch. 666, the eldest cousin's look of adoration. Are you a pendant who can only shout 666 now? Usopp really didn't bother to say anything about him. I'm afraid that I won't be able to control myself if I'm not careful. Carrying a sack back to the ship, everyone knows that after so much money, it is not very safe here. Fighting and killing people is too discordant, and if you can avoid it. Forget it. Blame me for this damn kindness. I can only sail in the evening, go home directly. The money is deposited in the safe and the big cousin is organized. Set sail. Setting sail at night and racing on the silent sea made Usopp feel a little like finding the 13 young men in the capital, which also made all the bigwigs who still had luck in their hearts pounce, and could only watch the jumping feet and scold the mother from a distance on the shore. Watching billions of Baileys drift away, I can only take advantage of my lips, and say something like a defeated dog that will make you look good again. Of course, there are also some who are not dead, ready to intercept the Usopp duo at sea. But when he was about to intercept, he didn't have time to act. Wow. Ha 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 ha. Look at my stern lights. The scum, accompanied by a burst of maniacal laughter. Usopp's ship disappeared in front of him at a speed never seen before, leaving only a faint white tail wave, and the endless after sound, letting people know that they were not dreaming or hallucinating, but that a boat was indeed flying in front of them. At this moment, Usopp is the Fujiwara Takumi in the Pirates, Schumacher at sea. Wantonly splurge on the sea. This Nima is speeding, right? The world is buggy, right? Can't afford to play the pirate game? The people who were ready to plunder Usopp's fleet were dumbfounded. Unbelievable. This is the speed of a special ship? Could it be a ghost ship? Things that are completely beyond human cognition. Human beings are always accustomed to maintaining fear, and by the way, they bring some mysterious sets to it, and some inexplicable metaphysical explanations, which can be used as a talking point and perfectly cover their ignorance and fear. It didn't take long for the legend of a ghost ship laden with gold and silver jewelry to spread at an alarming speed in the East China Sea, and no one knew where it came from or where it was going. It only wandered in the East China Sea, full of treasure. Yohei ideographic period. Wild waves are an attitude. Wild waves are not restrained. Humming songs, racing boats. Usopp feels that he is at the peak of his life at this moment, the climax of life. This moment is the highest interpretation of Fast and Furious. The big cousin, who is accustomed to this speed and stimulation, can gradually control his passion and accept his disgusting magical powers. The temperament as cold as snow covered his brother's face again, and the fierce and cold arrogance seemed to be him. The speeding makes everything simple and smooth, and Usopp is actually very repulsive in his heart. As a serious person, how can it be said that the people can be cut down, and these people have no wrongs in the past and no hatred in the near future? If in order to punish rape and eliminate evil, Thorpe said that he was not interested, what are these fur thieves? The wicked are everywhere. Killing a stubble will soon emerge again, and killing less, except to add evil and blood, there is really no point. The biggest evil is at the top of the pyramid. It is the Draco, the 5 old stars, the nobles, the 4 emperors, the 7 martial seas, etc. What can the world where the wicked are in charge of killing miscellaneous fish change? So except for those who are too excessive or have to find fault, Usopp is based on the principle of avoidance if he can. I just wanted to be an elegant bastard, and the initial goal of becoming stronger was just not to be beaten. Although people are much stronger now, Usopp's spiritual consciousness has not grown much, and he has only been able to improve to the extent that he has the opportunity to slightly change the tragic fate of some people in the original work. It's not negative, it's just that Usopp knows the world as it is, and as an adult he still has to live realistically. Constant awe is the way to survive. The big man of any world, Usopp believes that he is definitely not stupid, and he must especially point out that if he really treats the people of the pirate world as fools, live as a manga, or live as a fan fiction of other predecessors, then you may really be a comic. And when there is a shortage of manpower, just shouting slogans will not solve the problem. Luffy, Naruto and the other stunned children were no longer among them. As the saying goes, it's cool to commit 2 in 1, and it's always cool to commit 2, but the price of cool is hee. To be honest, Luffy would have long ago lost his life if he didn't have the aura of the protagonist, a bunch of reliable partners, and a social family background that was harder than a steel plate. Those who don't know his background, the strength is weak and can't do him. The strong can do him, but not his background. Therefore, Usopp understands that it is not simple to be the tide of the times, and it is definitely not just strong to be able to deserve, it is a combination of fate, background, strength, will, and wisdom. But even so, it is very likely that it is just a small pawn of heaven's Tao, let alone a fate with heaven's Tao. Even Naruto, who was bleak in the early stage, is actually strong enough to go against the sky, the son of the Hokage, the son of prophecy, or the reincarnation of Asura, the son of the 6 Tao immortals, and the master is also one of the legendary 3 ninjas, the god of education. In the end, the decisive battle with Madara, Kagaya and the others was not hung up and flew up, and Nima destroyed the world when he was only a few years old. Not to mention the hanging god Kurosaki Ichigo in the Shinigami, he opened the hanging at the critical moment, not only opened and hung but also sold it, so that in the end there was no game experience at all. Finally, think about your own insignificant power and will. Alas, change the world such a big thing, or give it to those big hands who have ideals and revenge, cut the black knife knight, snipe the irresponsible wild father by the way, follow the big guy to see the secrets of the world, and finally earn more money to take a few sisters, give birth to a few children, and life will be complete. Hold on. Rest assured to play the auxiliary position, is it not a whole body fracture as fragrant? Just complete? Impetuous, too impetuous, Usopp pandered to reality on the one hand, and was unwilling on the other. Ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period, ideographic period. The moonlight was like water, dispelling the heat of the day, and the sea breeze brought a chill to Usopp. The night always makes people's hearts stir, especially when they are alone, loneliness and various feelings in life are rushing to their hearts. Although he was reborn in a young body, can he really find the original teenager? Are you really willing to play only an auxiliary position? Usopp thought passively against the sea breeze. From a hot-blooded teenager who just got out of school, he became a middle-aged bald man who was brutally beaten by society. Can you still eat? It should be. I've been training to become stronger, but what else have you done besides educating your eldest cousin? Or do you just want to be safer and get beaten less? Why did the war ignite? Who exactly is the angry fist held for? Usopp was full of doubts, for those friends who haven't met yet. Why can you work hard for your friends? Usopp's past life experiences and perceptions are not enough to support his answers to these questions, and most people in previous lives were more inclined to profit and selfishness. Helping an old grandmother can be called a warrior, how ridiculous.
Forget it. If you can't figure it out, don't think about it, let's talk about the future in the future. Who knows about human nature? Hee. Usopp grinned self-deprecatingly.
Ideographic period, skipping a lot of mobs, Usopp just made it all the way to Cebu. However, Usopp is not prepared to park the ship at the dock, and it is difficult to explain it with many eyes, and so much money. So in the end, Usopp still drove the boat to the coast where he usually trained, and the fruit powder was covered and dragged directly to the shore, and he found a flat and dry place to hide, which can be a home or a boat, except for the perfect Usopp really does not know what to say. The eldest cousin also came to Usopp's home for the first time, standing in the training ground. The eldest cousin looked and stroked in shock. The training ground had been sharpened very round and flat slate. At this moment he knew how strict this new big brother was on himself and how much effort he had put into becoming stronger. To protect his teeth, Usopp resisted his eldest cousin's strong desire to cook. The eldest cousin who didn't get the job automatically turned on the speculation mode. Is it out of favor? Does the eldest brother not want me anymore? Big brother has a new dog outside? Usopp looked at his eldest cousin's anxious look, a black line in his head. What does this kid think? Is the little brother so difficult to bring now? In order to appease his eldest cousin's lost mood and let him not speculate automatically, Usopp arranged for him to do some miscellaneous work with fire and water. The eldest cousin who got the job was immediately refreshed, radiant, and energetic, feeling that he was doing it again, that he had been reused, that he had reoccupied the heights of Usopp, and that he was the boss's most intimate dog again. Is this the legendary? What happened to human nature now? Looking at the brainwashed look of his eldest cousin in the pyramid scheme, Usopp was full of questions. After the two of them simply ate a nightly meal, Usopp's spirit improved a lot, and those sad thoughts faded a lot. One person had a cup of hot tea, and the two lay down on the ground while humming and talking. While drinking tea, he really made Usopp find a little feeling of an old cadre in his previous life. The two had a small talk, and Usopp also began to think about the gains of this time. First of all, the mental power and domineering inexplicably increased a lot, and then the electrotherapy was upgraded to 3.0, the domineering control was more micro, the strengthening effect was better, and the strengthening speed of the physical body maintained a gratifying progress. But the biggest gain is the slippery fruit. This fruit is really very strong. Ordinary people may not be easy to understand. In addition to plastic surgery, physical attack is ineffective. What is the use? This involves the nature of friction, based on the use of Usopp during this time, and the analysis combined with the high-end physical level of the previous life, summarized three aspects of ability. First, the fruit ability can change the structure of matter at the microscopic level, reorder the molecular atoms of the substance to a certain extent, and make the skin smooth and delicate. And plastic surgery is the embodiment of this part of the ability, but in the past few days of testing and use of Usopp feels that this part of the ability has not been exerted. Usopp believes that it is very likely this part of the ability and coverage is not a game, or his mind control has not reached this level. Awakening should be able to perform. If it can be used successfully, it should be possible to permanently change the structure of the matter. Second, the fruit ability can actually control or counteract the interaction between electromagnetic forces. In addition to the shape, friction is fundamentally about the interaction between atoms, and the interaction between atoms is electromagnetic force, so friction is essentially electromagnetic force. So the control of this coefficient of friction, Usopp speculates that it is the regulation of the electromagnetic force. The forces of the macroscopic world, except for gravity, are essentially electromagnetic forces. Everything that can be heard, seen, smelled, tasted, touched, and felt in daily life, and even thoughts, is the result of electromagnetic forces. At the microscopic level, it is first necessary to understand the structure of matter. For example, metals are microscopic structures composed of lattices arranged by metal cations and free electrons free around cations. Why is such a structure stable? It is because the electrostatic repulsion between the cations maintains the distance between the cations and prevents the structure from collapsing. Electrons surround cations to form a diffuse sea of electrons, pulling cations together and preventing structural collapse. Therefore, the main force that maintains this structure is the Coulomb force, which is the electromagnetic force from the four basic forces. Of course, gravity also exists, but it is still too insignificant compared to electromagnetism. So if Usopp can finally achieve the ability to control electromagnetic force through the fruit ability, then this strength cannot be said in a word. All kinds of electromagnetism masters tell us how lonely invincible is. From the electrochemical signal transmission of cells to the electromagnetic nature of macroscopic object friction, in fact, electromagnetic force can be regarded as the most involved force in our lives and lives. This is completely different from the other three hang-up forces. If you reach a high energy state, the weak force and the electromagnetic force are unified. Not only can you play with the electromagnetic force, but also send the weak interaction force, which is simply not too cool. If the control is delicate enough, it is simply how strong and strong. It is estimated that it will not be a problem for the pirate world to seal the four heavenly kings at that time. However, if the control is not so delicate and delicate, you can only macroscopically use slippery fruits, or release a macroscopic arc, then probably, it's just a Pikachu. The third is to compare the concept of less scientific ability, slippery. The concept of sliding is brought into the ability to be released, and the conceptual ability similar to the Yin Callus bomb with Big Bear is obtained. But how to develop Usopp is still a little confused. After all, the conceptual ability is too fantastic and mysterious. Usopp's materialism is a little difficult for him to understand, but bears can develop it, and Usopp does not believe it, and he can't figure it out with his own intelligence. It's just a matter of length. Usopp also designed several skills long before he could get the fruit. Bullets, zero friction bullets, can permanently maintain the speed of the chamber, allowing the maximum power of the bullet. Transfiguration. Using the fruit ability, filters and reflects the light waves on the body to achieve stealth, transfiguration, phantom and other effects. As a sniper, this ability is crucial to Usopp, but stealth must be kept secret because he is afraid of being killed alive by Nami and others. Thinking nerve reflex acceleration. Using the ability of slippery fruit to achieve brain nerve fiber signal transmission acceleration, speed can theoretically increase to the speed of light, but thinking speed has a limit. Excessive acceleration will lead to a sharp increase in brain energy consumption, so the thinking reaction speed, the maximum can only be increased to 120 meters per second of ordinary people 50 times. In this state, Usopp's thinking speed and nerve reflex speed are no longer in the human category. Even those top powerhouses in the pirates will be limited by the limitations of the human body, and no matter how much exercise cannot speed up the speed of nerve signal transmission. Therefore, in this state, Usopp's reaction speed and shot speed are unstoppable. Even if the other party can predict the future, it may not be able to resist Usopp's extreme speed. And in this state, Usopp could not be sneaked up at all, and the speed of sneak attack was not as fast as his reaction. Blood flow accelerates, uses fruit ability to act with blood vessels and blood throughout the body, reduces friction and increases running speed, and controls heart rate with life return to achieve an effect similar to Luffy's second gear. The control effect is many times stronger than Luffy too, because Luffy uses a pressure pump in the second gear to make the blood flow faster, but this flow speed itself has a limit, and continuing to strengthen after the pressure reaches a certain level will not speed up the flow rate, it will only make your body collapse. The slippery fruit controls friction. This acceleration is milder and more controllable, less damage to the body, and short-term use will not consume life force. This skill is mainly used to cooperate with the accelerated use of thinking, and in the state of accelerated thinking, the blood running speed must be increased to give the brain enough nutrients. There are some exaggerated ideas behind. Usopp does not plan to continue research, greedy to chew, first practice these skills. Looking at his eldest cousin who was asleep beside him, Usopp silently closed his eyes and began to settle. The feeling of cultivating at home made Usopp very relieved, and when he got up in the morning, Usopp kicked his eldest cousin who was still sleeping soundly. After breakfast, Usopp told him to hurry up and get out. What to do? The guy who cooks for his life, Usopp has to serve him in addition to training. So what is the use of him? Add blockage. The eldest cousin is also a person with vision, although he is reluctant, but he also knows that he is causing trouble for the eldest brother and walks away honestly. When parting, let Usopp find him if he has something, except for cooking. Everything else is fine, proper. The development of the fruit has brought Usopp a little new passion. After all, honest iron is also quite boring, and the training of sword skills and marksmanship is also lacking in interest because there is no opponent to let Usopp. Lao Tai has not fought with Usopp since he fought once, and Ren Usopp broke his throat and failed to call Lao Tai to strike. How lonely invincibility is. Some people feel that they can do it, and they will have a kind of depravity. However, building a car behind closed doors is not a solution, but the nearby sea is peaceful, which makes Usopp very helpless, and he can't go to someone to cut it himself. Taking the initiative to provoke trouble, this is not in line with Usopp's socialist values. Therefore, developing fruits has become his new goal, which not only alleviates the loneliness of invincibility, but also quickly increases his strength. But today is not in a hurry to cultivate. When I come back, I will first go to see Uncle Bichir, and the two predecessors of Lao Tai, grateful for the knowledge and etiquette, the traditional virtues of the Chinese nation. Brought Uncle Beecher some not so expensive, small specialties and strange gadgets. Expensive is afraid that the uncle will not accept it. The person is not old, but he is really stubborn. Every day I smiled with this loving father, and my scalp felt numb when I saw Usopp. Brought a set for Sunderland, Lao Yin. Ahem. The captain's treasured sapphire jewelry, the color of the sea, extremely pure and old. The captain's vision has to be said to be good, and he has almost caught up with 1/10 of Usopp's. Give Lao Sang. Let him give his wife a horse. As for whether Lao Sang can blossom with iron trees and applaud for love, Usopp can't care. The price is not important. What matters is the heart. After all, the concern of the two elders and the value of Thunderfury cannot be measured in money at all. The implicit people of the Celestial Empire, the kindness is all in the heart, and the great grace does not say thanks. Usopp's new appearance and superpowers made several old people react. Uncle Beechil, as a standard, was stunned and unbelievable the whole time, until Usopp hit a few dry land slips in front of him. Beechil was still stunned. Not only that, but Usopp also felt that his condition was slightly aggravated. After all, I have never been out of the island a few times in my life, The fruit is such a high-level thing, it is normal if I have not heard of it, and the quality of my heart is too poor. Let the uncle delay for a few days. Usopp saw that his uncle could not accept it for a while, so he decided to withdraw, set a date for his next visit, and went to the weapon master with gifts. In the blacksmith shop, Lao Sang was sitting at the door with a fan, and from a distance, he saw a handsome man carrying something and walking straight towards the shop. Yohi, come to live. Lao Sang happily stood up and prepared to greet the customer, perhaps because the craftsmanship was too good, so that the surrounding neighbors had no new needs. It has not been opened for several days, and it is rare to see a customer come to the door, so it must be grasped. Otherwise, you will have to eat soil. Usopp, this kid doesn't know where to run. Didn't come for days. It's a good day, this angry little ghost, and there is still a little empty in his heart, Sunderland muttered in his heart. People are sometimes a little cheap, disgusted when they see each other, and miss each other when they don't see them. A little familiar, huh? Where have you seen it? There are people in this world who are more handsome than me, and they are still familiar. Why can't I remember? Sunderland wondered. The weapon master is also a man who has honey confidence in himself. Looking down and rummaging in his mind, suddenly the old blacksmith's eyes lit up. How can this Nima be so much like Usopp? Got a facelift? The old blacksmith was a little incredulous. Yo, Lao Tai, don't you think I'm there? Usopp teased as he opened his mouth. Usopp. The weapon master asked tentatively. Although it was similar, the gap was too big for him to be sure. Yo huh. Yes, old iron. This can be guessed. Usopp was delighted that he was the first person to be able to recognize him at a glance after his plastic surgery. The old-timers are the old-timers, and they are really as bright as a torch. How to go out to the sea, but also plastic surgery, the effect is good. It's just that the master's breath is weaker. The old blacksmith made a pertinent judgment of Usopp. Usopp considered the words in his heart, because his background has always been in the village, so he should not know the existence of the devil fruit, and he cannot say that he went to sea for the devil fruit, otherwise he may expose the biggest secret in his heart. So how to tell a little lie in the case of not triggering, long-nosed buff is the priority. I didn't have plastic surgery, I was shipwrecked when I went out to sea, I floated to a desert island, and I ate a fruit with a very strange pattern and that's it. Pinch the head, remove the tail, omit the process and the cause, perfect. Usopp gave himself a small thumbs up. I hope Lao Sang is not a person who likes to dig into the bottom of things. Usopp secretly prayed in his heart, asked but could not lie, did not say it, and seemed to distrust the elders and hurt his feelings. Alas. It's hard to be human, and it's even harder to be an honest person. Strange patterned fruit. Devil fruit. The careless eyes of the weapon master obviously did not pay attention to the rationality of the story, but paid more attention to the keyword fruit. Did you eat the devil fruit? Sunderland's eyes widened in surprise. Ah. Usopp looked embarrassed. How to return? Positive or negative? Affirmation means that you know the devil fruit, and denying yourself is lying. Dead end? What if it's an interrogative sentence? Ask, what is a fruit? It's not a lie. You can't try it randomly, the price of failure is too heavy, it will make the nose straighten. The old blacksmith's simple question plunged Usopp into a brief loop. Nima. You kid really dares to eat anything, and he is not afraid of poisoning, but I have to say that your kid's luck is against the sky. Do you know what you eat? That is the secret treasure of the sea, the devil fruit. After eating it, it will have the power of the devil. But what fruit do you eat? How can it also have a plastic surgery effect? Your aunt is estimated to like it very much. The weapon master's thinking was obviously not as complicated as Usopp thought. The old blacksmith, stimulated by the devil fruit, turned on the long-lost fragmentation mode, and without Usopp answering or asking, he began to smoothly add everything that should be supplemented to Usopp. From the origin of the devil fruit all the way to, Anta here wanted to know that there was a devil fruit that could be plastic surgery, and she had already gone to grab and eat Yunyan. An hour later, the old blacksmith stopped and drank 2 sips of water, and Usopp's brain was now like a hornet's nest, buzzing, and there was still echo in his ears. What is Lao Tai doing while I'm not at home? Trained mouths away. This skill has obviously increased by several levels. Then I think of another cold macho big cousin. Usopp has a livid face. Why are the current macho men all two-faced? Are the waves so wild and so attractive behind the ground? Naughty. It's tricky. This special meow was sent down to influence my state of mind. Steady. You can't let your guard down. Usopp obviously didn't want to get involved with the weapon master in the matter of the fruit. He was afraid that he would not be able to go home today. Hurry up and offer what you have been preparing for a long time. Seriously. Usopp believes that no one can resist the allure of gemstones, men and women. Nami. It could be crazy. I'll go. Didn't you kid go to sea as a pirate, right? Stolen goods? Thinking of this, the joy in Lao Tai's eyes turned serious, and Lao Tai felt that as the guardian of Usopp, he could not go astray at a young age. Where did this thing come from? Seeing this scene, Ahir, who appeared out of nowhere, asked in a deep voice in a clear voice. Such a young child will rob, and when he grows up, he will pay it back. I can't say that I will destroy my relatives today. Ah. Why are you so serious all of a sudden? Oops, there's something to say, don't do it, don't do it. It was not robbed, it was not robbed, it was found together on the merchant ship where the devil fruit was found. Didn't steal or rob. It's true. Looking at the solemnity and coldness in the eyes of the two, Usopp suddenly panicked a little, and quickly explained. Really? X2, the Sunderland couple asked in unison. However, after listening to Usopp's explanation, the murderous aura in his eyes went a lot. Usopp's character is still relatively strong in the heart of the second elder. Really, really, really. I swear to my nose that my nose will grow longer if I lie. Usopp did not dare to hide anything from these two people who cared so much about him. I was afraid that the two would be angry. Looking at Usopp's words, thinking about the person who had contacted Usopp before, the two gradually relaxed their hearts, and heard Usopp swear with his nose. The two couldn't help but feel a little guilty in their hearts. What a boy. I blamed you for my mistake. Ahir touched Usopp's head with pity, his eyes full of guilt. Alright. You care too, I know. Do you still want this jewelry? Don't want me to take it back? Usopp gestured to put it back in his bag. Looking at Usopp's slow movements, the Sunderlands looked at each other, and bursts of electricity turned into a dark code, flowing between their eyes. Do you want a daughter-in-law? This kid is almost putting away. Yes, hurry. I can't get a kneeling hammer. Good boo. Order. The two ended their communication in less than half a second. His eyes lit up as he stared at Usopp's retracted hand. Big nephew, see outside, ha ha ha. Don't worry about going back. Stay for lunch together. Your aunt heard that you were coming. The dishes are ready. Old Sang stepped forward to hold Usopp's hand, took the box down, and handed it back to Ahir behind him. Aha. Don't leave, just stay for dinner. I'll go prepare now, and you two have a good chat. Ahir, who took the box, did not wait for Usopp to react, turned around and went into the kitchen. Hee hee. The corners of Usopp's mouth twitched, and the lower limit of the old-timers was not low. I'm pretty skilled. And which of the hell of you two heard that I was coming? Underscore. The wind is fair. The hot-blooded boy is splurging his youth and sweat on the beach, practicing an exposure to the sun for several months, but he has not been able to make Usopp's skin return to bronze. Handsome is handsome, but the man's temperament is always almost meaningful. This made Usopp quite unhappy in his heart, although he is now handsome beyond the standard, but he is always far from the Zybro village Peng Yuyan in his heart. Uncle Beachhill also gradually accepted during this time Usopp's incomparably handsome new image. I have to say that handsome is really preferential in all aspects. There are more discounts on buying vegetables on the street than ordinary people, and some aunts have also launched love activities to buy vegetables and give them to their daughters-in-law. Uncle Beachhill was also clearly more than a notch up his enthusiasm for Usopp. So Usopp now wants to hide when he sees him. The enthusiasm is terrifying. Several times Usopp wondered if Beecher was coveting his beauty. Old Sang sighed as always. Even Aunt Ahir continued to immerse herself in the charm of that huge sapphire, unable to extricate herself. Woman. Hee hee. Originally, the owner of the big house was going to return, but just in time for Usopp to go to sea to find fruit, he perfectly missed the encounter with each other, and of course, missed an opportunity to make money. In the past few months, the owner of the big house has gone out again, and he doesn't know when he will be able to return, and Usopp can only continue to practice, patiently waiting for the opportunity, and he doesn't know what to run outside every day, how dangerous it is outside. The eldest cousin didn't come over during this time, and he didn't know what he was busy with. I haven't seen him for so long, and I miss his big fierce face a little. Idiographic period. Usopp has not been idle in the past few months, and the fruit, flesh, swordsmanship, and marksmanship have all made a qualitative leap. Especially the flesh, with the continuous update of Electrotherapy 7.0, the speed of physical strengthening is simply flying, and the strengthening of the physical body reverses the growth rate of domineering, which can be described as a match made in heaven, this perfect cycle. Now Usopp does not use domineering, and the master of physical weapons alone is no longer an opponent. Moved domineering. That. Well, let's save some face for the master. The early development of the fruit is also very smooth. The mental power control ability is equal to the super high control of energy. The improvement brought by this control ability is definitely Omega level. Two people are not 1+1. Assisted by the cleverness of Usopp itself, the first order of the super thinking mode has been successfully developed, and the others include the thunder mode that accelerates the nerve reflex, and the violent blood mode that controls the blood flow speed. Life return has also been introduced, by controlling the rate of heart beating. These buffs are applied to Usopp, plus swordsmanship and marksmanship. Weapon Master Sunderland was already awarded his first second kill last month. The Weapon Master who was killed in seconds turned black on the spot, first in disbelief, and then followed by endless loss. As a domineering master, a basically invincible strong man in the first half of the Great Voyage, and the pure masters who once conquered Thunder Island, were actually killed in seconds by a little fart who had not yet gone to sea. A flash sale is a second kill, not a friendly exchange between you and me, but a second kill without resistance. It was really difficult for the old blacksmith to accept, and this feeling of powerlessness being crushed by the juniors really made the old Sang silent for a long time. After the powerlessness, there is a faint sense of relief, and it seems that my dream can be realized. After being relieved, it fell into endless self-doubt. I also lost my previous spirit, and a big defeat hung on my face all day, and it was not pleasing to see Usopp anywhere. The spirit is slightly better. After Sunderland finally evaluated Usopp, the close USUP is simply a terrible meat grinder. Even if it is the first order of the super thinking mode, it has a thinking speed that exceeds the ordinary number of times. The strong physical strength brought by electrotherapy, with several other buffs, Sunderland can hardly imagine who else can fight with Usopp to get close. The terrifying speed of the non-human nerve reflex, combined with Usopp's unique power technique, is simply an endless metal storm, and how human beings resist, they can only tremble under such a natural disaster. As for the long-range aspect, the rifle that Usopp wanted has never been made, because the difficulty of the process is more than one notch higher, and Lao Sang is not in a good mood, so the research and development has stalled. In Sunderland's words, "You are so strong, and play with a hairy gun, roll aside, don't dangle in front of Lao Tzu's eyes, and affect Lao Tzu's good mood for a day." As for the pistol, Sunderland said that when he saw Usopp about to pull out the gun, don't hesitate to run. Sunderland also carefully recalled the masters he had met in his life, and he found that meeting the current Usopp was basically the same as him, a life in seconds. Alas. Debut, both the pinnacle imp. The back wave pushes the front wave, and the old blacksmith dies on the beach. Accurate. It's really upset. With the profundity of Usopp's cultivation, the brain becomes clearer and clearer, and with the acceleration of thinking, Usopp can think about many problems very thoroughly, so the development of gunfighting is also very smooth. The version has been iterated to the 4.0 stable version, and there is still room for optimization in the follow-up, but it is not a theory, but it must be combined with actual combat to continue. The fully concentrated state can already be achieved in seconds, and the eyes are immediately attacked, and Jian Hao's realm has been stabilized. There is still only one move in terms of sword moves. The first order of the whole concentration has already exceeded 10 companies, and the 10th company can hit more than 4 times the damage of the basic attack with the current physical body, and Usopp easily cut off a cliff with this move. The domineering arc on the Thunder Fury and Wind, Usopp can now control it handy. Super spiritual power can even be. The thunder and lightning on the sword are compressed into an extremely thin thunder line attached to the blade. This extremely dense high-energy ion line formed by activating the domineering shock in the sword blade can theoretically cut everything. This move is similar to the enchanted buff. Although it is extremely powerful, it takes about 15 seconds to charge the power to reconcile and restrain the domineering energy. However, because the charging time is too long, it is necessary to enter the battlefield to use this move to charge power, and it feels more chicken to deal with the enemy Usopp at this stage. The old blacksmith covered the domineering iron hammer, and it was cut off by a clean sword, and the domineering spirit of the old iron's whole body could not resist for half a second. The power is evident. Usopp finally smashed his mouth. The power is acceptable, the practicality is poor. However, these are not Usopp's strongest attacks. Usopp's strongest attack at the moment is to use the fruit ability to cut out an extremely thin sword light. Where the sword light passes, the electromagnetic force between atoms and molecules is offset by the fruit ability. It can be said that everything is cleanly chopped to pieces. Even if it is domineering, it is difficult to resist this sword light. Usopp calls it a two-dimensional knife. Because its single-point energy is extremely condensed, if the domineering density strength is not enough, it will die. Domineering is also an energy, and Usopp has also tested the lethality of two-dimensional knives with his own domineering. How to say? A little contradictory. The same mental strength control domineering and two-dimensional knife cut each other. Basically no one can help anyone. But as long as the energy condensation of the two-dimensional knife is so strong, it doesn't need to be too much. The two-dimensional knife is domineering in seconds, as if the fruitability of the energy sublevel may also be chi. Like the last piece that fell when the last avalanche that crushed the camel's back. Not domineering? Unimportant. Anyway, the speed of death is not much worse. This move does not consume much of Usopp's physical strength, and mainly has strict mental requirements. To control the energy density per unit area, it is also compressed into a two-dimensional sheet with the thickness of a single energon. However, the shot is crippled or dead, which also makes Usopp very cautious about this move, or leave it to Kaido. Let's see if you can slice the body of this buddy who claims to be undead. But the problem now is the same as the ion line, is that the charging time is too long. The ion line can also be enchanted in advance. It is good to maintain it for a long time. The two-dimensional knife is really a charge for more than 10 seconds, a second real man. In the future, it will be a little stronger, maybe the CD will be shorter. The so-called scientists know martial arts, and no one can stop it. Cultivating in the spirit of science, the speed of Usopp's refinement is terrifying. However, Usopp's buffs that increase neural responses are not really invincible, and high-speed reaction thinking also means huge energy consumption. Thinking acceleration first order, thunder first order, violent blood first order, 3 buffs hanging on the body at the same time. Usopp can hold on for about 30 minutes, one body of energy will be exhausted, a short time must eat a lot of high-calorie food to balance. The structure of the human body itself is not designed to save energy. So under the balance of the normal energy cycle, Usopp can now only exert about 1/10 of the ability of the 3 major BFFs. Usopp sums himself up as high explosive, high speed, low battery life, and I don't know how those big guys start for more than 10 days without moving to fight, how to get the physical strength. However, Usopp is not exactly a 30-minute real man. These buffs are not the same as the sage time. These buffs mainly rely on the use of fruit ability, the subtlety of fruit control. Usopp can actually do it as you go. In this case, in the low-end game, the overall battery life can still be guaranteed, but that's it. Although the physical strength will continue to increase in the later stage, these buffs may also evolve to the second and third orders at the same time, and the physical energy consumed will also increase exponentially, so if you want to normalize the strongest state, there is basically no play. So Usopp defines himself as high speed, high burst, and if you can't solve the battle in a few minutes, you will run quickly. It's useless to fight any longer, and the consumption can't consume those big guys. Exhausted, Usopp lay on the ground panting, not knowing what Luffy was doing. Solon should still be playing with his sword practice. What about Nami? Maybe steal something in that place. Robin, alas, may be hunted down in that unknown corner. Sanji? Choba? Robot? Usopp's thoughts drifted far away, and the infinitely elevated soul overlooked the vast sea. Years are a river from which there is no turning back. All this is about to happen, and if you take a wrong step, it is easy to cause bitter fruit. The experience of the Straw Hat Pirates several times about to be wiped out made Usopp stressed. Let's take it one step at a time. _